I got to tell you guys, I enjoyed the weather this morning outside. I had to take a little longer walk to get to the studio. That's what took us so long. Welcome into TexAgs Radio here, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We're going to hold the go hour until 10 o'clock because we've got a baseball I guess not a baseball hour, but a baseball
You got a brawny hour.
I got a brawny hour because you got Recruiting Country and Jim Schlossnagel here in studio with us to start things off. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming in. So it is football season, but there's been a lot of Aggie baseball news here the last few weeks. Just how is your offseason treating you?
I've been super busy, and like you said, it feels like football season this morning, at least closer to football season versus the 108 or whatever we've had. But it's definitely not an off season. It's the most active season for us in the summer, whether it be recruiting, transfer portal, trying to get things moving on the stadium. Obviously, we've had some staff turnover and trying to fill all those spots. Still working on that, but it's slowed down a little bit the last week. Now we pretty much have everybody back on campus, and looking forward to our first team meeting on Friday afternoon. And this time next week we'll be in skill hours and ready to go.
All right.
Well, I feel like I got to ask you all the questions I would have asked you at the TexAgs preseason kickoff. By the way, Nolan was fantastic. He was awesome. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, your first year, you go all the way to the College World Series and make the Final Four, and it felt like, just like that, we were back going again in the fall. To me, just thinking about you guys playing at Stanford feels like it was so long ago. Is that 1 month just the biggest difference for you too? Do you feel that way too?
Oh yeah. And there's no doubt that the College World Series shortens your summer so much.
Yeah.
And so we're gladly go through that again as soon as we possibly can. But yeah, it was the first 4 weeks after the regional were as long and tenuous a time for me as I can remember in 34, 35 years of coaching. With staff hire, major league draft. I mean, on any. Nolan and I are driving or flying to visit with our high school signees to try to hold them in the draft. You're trying to keep things under control within the program, and then obviously out there trying to hire a pitching coach while you're still recruiting the 24 and 25 classes. Thank goodness the new rules went into play with the even younger classes, because if we would have had to stay on top of the 8th and 9th graders, I mean, just pure the insanity that would have been. And to be real honest with you, Nolan Kane is to be credited for as much as anybody for, I don't want to say holding our program together, but he held down the fort of a lot of things while I was trying to hire a coach and still go do all the other things that a head coach has to do. So yeah, it's been a really long summer. Well, too long.
I do want to turn the page, and we will talk about this coming year's roster but before we do that, I think just the impression that the guys that are leaving left, and how excited were you for Jack Moss and Trevor Werner and Hunter Haas, and even guys like Austin Boster now find a place to go play. Just when you think back about that group of guys going forward, how will they have impacted your program 4 or 5 years from now?
Yeah, man, those are special people. If I start talking about them too much, I'll be tearing up because they're really good players. They love Texas A&M. But elite people. And as I sit and plan the fall, we just got off a little 48-hour coaches retreat, and we talked about how intentional we're going to have to be as coaches to reinstill or maintain the culture of the program. Whereas last year, it was real easy in the beginning of the year because you can turn it over to the guys this 5, 6, 7 guys that have been living and breathing it. And now, you return Jace, you return Targo. There's some guys in the pitching staff that I think, Jay Sutchins, Prager, Chris Cortez. There's some people in the pitching staff that are going to be able to help us with that. But man, the goal is to be coach-led, coach-fed, and player-led. That's what I call it. And so we have some work to do on that. But those guys, they will forever, at least in my heart, go down as some of my most favorite players ever to be around.
And when you go through that kind of exodus and you go into the transfer portal without getting we'll talk about specific some of those guys, but what was the plan going in?
Well, we needed to get a shortstop, and we needed to thank goodness of the Jackson Appel being a grad transfer that we got early, so you felt good about a catcher because you need it. You know, Max Crawford, I still love as a player. Hank Bard, I think, can help us, but you got to have a catcher in every class. I mean, because if there's never enough quarterbacks because you're one or two injuries away from complete devastation, and so having Appel already in there, and then I think Caden Kent can bounce around and play a lot of different positions, but we needed a pure shortstop. We have one in Jack Bell, I know. We have one in Ollie Camarillo, but the draft is so late. Jack Bell was a draftable player, and so for Ollie to commit to us during the regional, that was a huge building block. You know, if we'd had to, and there weren't that many great ones out there, and we feel like we got the best one. So those were huge.
How about the addition of Max Weiner to the staff and just what went into getting him and the impact he's having early?
Yeah, I think the impact he's having, he can't coach the guys, but he's building those relationships right now, and he's real intentional with that on the phone, in person now that we're all back in town. What went in to hire him? A lot of conversations, a lot of long nights for me talking to all of my friends and acquaintances in college and professional baseball. I had an idea of the profile that we wanted. And the same name kept coming up, as I said earlier in the summer, and then met with them. And then there's the assistant general manager of the Mariners is one of my dearest friends for the last 30 years, who I incredibly trust. And even though he hated to lose him, he also knew that Max's life goal was to be in college baseball. He's built for college baseball, and so honestly, what's unique about him is he came on his interview, didn't check a bag. Hasn't left.
Has not left. Wow.
Hasn't left. Like his girlfriend, probably fiance at some point, will be down here in a couple weeks. But he spent a lot of money at CC Creations, the warehouse, Aggie Land Outfitter, Maroon U. I mean, I don't know all the sponsors here. I don't want to screw your deal up, but yeah, I mean, he's been in Aggie gear. He's wearing sliding shorts as underwear. He's just been working, Yeah. And so. Man, if that's not an awesome, that's like the player that wants to be at A&M, right? You don't have to convince him or go through $9 million. There wasn't some big negotiation, and he said, "Coach, the day you offer me the job is the day I'm going to be there." And he had a great job. We're not talking about somebody who didn't have a job,
right?
So that's been the most impressive thing is his desire to be here. And so the coaching side of things, he's got work to do. We all have to prove ourselves every year, but yeah, it's exciting right now to have that little level of energy in that position.
Did the cultural fit, make a lot of sense for both sides? Because he grew up with a military background, obviously with A&M's history as well.
Yeah, I think the cultural, yes, because all of those things mean a lot to him, and it made it more comfortable for him and enticing for him because he had other options. There were other college programs over the course of the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, as he established himself in this profession, that he could have gone and done something with. And he's from Miami, and he chose to come to College Station, and that's a great statement for Texas A&M.
I like that.
And well, that's David. Yeah, David's background in Miami. And another thing we need to talk about on the staff-wise is Michael Early being promoted to a full-time assistant, and then Nolan obviously as the now associate head coach. So well earned, I think. Yes.
Yeah, I mean more than earned. Obviously, Michael Early. What a joy that's been. What a luxury that's been for us to have in that volunteer coach position. And thankfully, the other guys on the staff, Hutch and Chuck Box and Will Fox, those guys, it all is interwoven, right? If Hutch and Chuck and Will don't do such a great job with our baseball camps, that doesn't give us the resources to be able to keep Mike here. Yeah. And then when we finally, thankfully, Ross, we're funding the third assistant, and they changed the rules, and now we can have 3 and 4 guys on the road. Don't really need to have 4 on the road, so that allows me to be here, or allows me to go hire a coach or strength coach or all the different things that we have going on, and be around our players. We have a lot of players on campus. We have 17, 18 freshmen on campus in the summer, and a lot of the times without the other coach, there's nobody here, and they need a resource too. When they're on our campus in the summer.
Well, and I think you mentioned those freshmen, and a lot of attention will go to Gavin Grahovic and Jack Bell and Carl Schmidt and those kind of players. But I'm more interested in the potential of the arms that you brought in, and specifically some of the right-handed arms. And you had Isaac Morton drafted. Didn't even know he was drafted. I think you said he was with you, and when that went down, and you managed to keep him on campus. Brant Antolik. All these guys are. I think just watching their high school stuff, like potential come in and make a difference.
Well, they have to come in and make a difference because we can't live and die in the transfer portal, especially pitching-wise. There's really not that many elite pitchers that go in there every year, and the competition for those guys they're really hard to get. And there's not that many. This is one side point I'd like to make is there's not that many elite transfers going in the portal from our region of the country. The mid, whatever you want. I hate the word mid-major, but there's not. When you look at Texas State, you look at Dallas Baptist, you look at Sam Houston, you look at these are really, really good programs. The good players don't leave, right? In other parts of the country, they do. So for us to go cherry pick a guy out of the Southeast, that's not easy. To recruit some of those big names. So we need to develop our own pitching. And so those 4 or 5 high school right-handers, there's 2 to 3, 4 high school left-handers. We need to develop those guys so that we're not dependent on that side of the ball. We're in the state of Texas. We're Texas A&M. We should be able to develop our own pitching. And I agree with you. Those are the things. Jason Bowden, Weston Moss, Caden Wilson, Vargas. Like those are guys I'm really excited about getting on the mound.
And you did make pitching additions because we talked to you a lot last year. Throughout the year, we know you struggle with right-handed options out of the bullpen. You go out and you make 3 additions out of the portal, and Eldridge Armstrong, Tanner Jones, and Zane Badmayev. Just what was attractive about all 3 of those guys where you felt it was important? And you scour the country for Armstrong and Jones, and then Badmayev right in your backyard there at Tarleton.
Yeah, Zane was the first one to jump on board. Nolan really liked his profile, and even Nate was still with us when that was going on. They loved his profile as a relief pitcher. He's actually getting his doctorate.
Wow,
he's already has his master's. So, really neat guy. Neat to get to know. When Jones was in the portal, he was the number one at the time he was in after his season ended. He was really the top guy in the portal. Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Southern Miss, Alabama, Auburn. I think those are all schools that he looked at. So he was a starter for them. For the most part, we treat everybody as a starting pitcher in the fall and see what they're capable of doing. And then Eldridge was at Team USA. Jace was telling us a lot of great things about him. We watched him on video. Nate had gone up there to watch him pitch, and so he'll have every opportunity like everybody else to do that. But I'm really excited about the high school kids. Super excited.
I want to follow that up with what Jace went through last year and the snapshot. We saw how the final numbers, how great it looked, but he went through a struggle in the beginning. How can he be like a message to these young players that, like, you stay true to the process, it'll come around?
Yeah, I think now Jace was we knew he was talented enough that we could, and he was surrounded by so many older players, we could ride out his slumps, right? And so it's always relative to the rest of the team and what the other options are. But we knew given Jace enough at bats, he was going to figure it out. And you look at his SEC numbers relative to the rest of the season, it's crazy how much better he did in conference play as versus the first 4 weeks. And so he's a great example. I met with our freshmen at the end of the summer school, and just to remind them, I said, hey, would you guys take Wyatt Langford's career? Junior year, $7, $8, $9 million signee. Sophomore year, all SEC, All American. Freshman year, 1 for 4. Wasn't hurt. Didn't play much, 4 at bats, right? And so in today's transfer portal world, a lot of our guys that we really liked, they stayed. And then I'm sure there were people in their ear, or they could have gone to do other things like Caden Kent, Tab Tracy, some of those kind of Max, some of those kind of players. So just stick with it. And I want them to play. I want our own players. I want those guys to win jobs. But it's also our job to put the best team on the field. And so we're trying to, and Bronny knows the classes we have coming, which I can't really talk about yet because they haven't signed, but we're trying to get this thing where 70% of our roster is our homegrown player.
Oh, we are 2 bad interviewers because we've gone 15 minutes and not talked about Braden Montgomery.
No, that's true.
The best player, one of the better players in college baseball now at Texas A&M, I believe, in town now. Will be starting school here soon. Just the kind of impact that had, and why. Obviously he had suitors from across the country. Why do you think he picked you off?
I think there's a lot of things that go into it. I think, and talking to his dad yesterday, Texas, being in the state of Texas had always been on their mind if something were to change. whether he has two younger siblings. One's a really good young high school baseball player, or going to be about 8th, 9th grade. And then he has a younger sister who's an elite gymnast, like elite gymnast. And I don't know the gymnastic world, but being in Houston apparently is there's a lot of opportunity for her to get playing high level club things or whatever those things are. So I think that's part of it. He is, there are some other people in his life that are in Houston that he works with, hitting coach trainers, stuff like that. So I think that was a part of it, playing in the SEC. And obviously Stanford's an elite degree. His mom is a doctor. I think the academic profile of Texas A&M played a big role in that. Whether he comes back and graduates after school or after he plays professional baseball, or whether he could actually still go back to Stanford and graduate if he wanted to do that. So, and I think Mike Early and that relationship and Max, he really does want to attack this pitching thing, and we're going to give him every opportunity to do that. And by the way, we have a great school and we have a pretty darn good program. So, I don't like, somebody brought up all these other schools. I'm like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like, that's not like he's coming to some other place, like brutal place. This is an elite place. So I think he was excited. I think if we can figure out the pitching side of things, which is the biggest deal, we're going to have a pretty darn good lineup around him. That's a big deal. If you're only going to be here for a year or 10, 11 months, you want to plug into a club and a lineup where you maybe have some protection in the lineup.
Not to cut you off, but look at the production you guys have had with the guys that have come in out of the transfer portal and how much their offensive production numbers have gotten better under Coach Michael Early. And if it gets better for Braden,
right,
you're talking about a top 10 overall pick.
Yeah, I think there are parts of his game that can be a lot better, just from what we've seen on video and obviously watching him in person when we're playing in the regional. But yeah, we have. I've shared you those slides that we show recruits, and you look at Hunter Haas before after. You look at Dylan Rock before and after. You look at Jack Moss,
Troy
Claunch, like even Jacob Palish on the pitching side. No disrespect to those other leagues, but all those guys have come in the SEC and the SEC West, and they've done better, right? And so when you look at that, obviously that's what we sell. That's not guaranteed, but certainly, for a guy like Braden, who's just I can't wait for you guys to meet him. Just this is a guy that made 35, 1 point away from a perfect score on the ACT. Pretty special guy, well-rounded human being.
Can you stay for one more?
Sure.
All right, let's do that. We'll come back with Jim Schlossnagle here on TexAgs Radio. We're back, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Got Jim Schlossnagle with us, Bronny's with us. I know it's probably weird to get compliments when but I'm going to give you a compliment that came in on the text line from a 713 number. Says, we're so spoiled to have Schloss. Great start to the show today. Just people, every time you come on, you get a lot of props on the line.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm honored to be here, man. I love it every single second.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
I was going to just say, can you kind of give us a timeline, the fall schedule, how things are going to play out?
Yeah. So we'll start to have our first team meeting on Friday. We'll get things going in the weight room on Monday. Have some meetings, kind of get everybody organized, and then we'll start the small group. Each player's allowed a certain number of hours a week of baseball activity until we get to our fall practice, which as of right now, barring weather or injury problems, we're going to start September 15th. Excuse me. Start September 15th and October 29th. That'll be like our 6-week window where we get to have about 27, 28 practices. Almost all of those will be some level of inter-squad game mixed in with practice. And we'll get all this information out and let everybody know when they can come in and sit down and watch some inter-squad games or something. And then October the 6th, we're planning on playing one of our 2 outside fall competition games on that Friday night before we play Alabama the next day. So I'd like to think we can get a great crowd that night. And then
any details on who that'll be against?
We haven't signed it. We don't really. Houston Christian's the plan.
Yeah.
We haven't signed the contract yet, but Lance, Coach Berkman, and I have figured all that stuff out. So we're going to play them. I don't really like playing teams we play during the season, but there's not that many teams local. The rule with the game is you're not allowed to miss class. So it's you can't really go very far. So I'd rather play Division I school if we can. So we'll do that, and then like the third weekend of October, Right now, it's going to be on Sunday, the 22nd. Coach at the University of Houston. We're trying to figure out with Coach Whitting whether we do it on that Sunday afternoon or maybe we do it that Friday, like the 20th. But again, we can't miss class to go. So if you want to play 14, 15 innings and you can't start till 5 or 6 o'clock at night, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. But it's going to be, those will be our 2 games for sure. One at home, one on the road. But the big one will be Friday night before we play Alabama. And
have you been pleased with how those things have gone in terms of response from the fan base so far? The fall games. Get the outside games.
Oh yeah, I think people get excited, and if we schedule them at the right time, whether it be around a football weekend or maybe the off football weekend where everybody's kind of looking for something to do in town and they can come watch a ball game. I think they're great. I wish we could do more of them, but they're very valuable. Because they get, especially all the new players. It's so great when the fans come because, we sell the crowd, we sell the 12th man, and then when we have those games and we have 3,000 to 5,000 people in the ballpark, then players are looking around like, holy cow, this is what it's really like. And so it's the closest thing to a real game that you get in the fall.
When Nolan was at our TexAgs preseason kickoff, he talked about the facilities and that, this is Texas A&M, kind of like what you said. We don't want to just catch Mississippi State or Arkansas, LSU. We want to plant a flag in the ground. So is there an update on the ball rolling in that direction? Yes,
and we should. We've had some really positive meetings with a state university. There's certain steps you have to do, things you can't go as fast as the coach wants to go, and certainly not as fast. I know the fans want to go too, fast, and so do I. But we've had some. We had one about 2 weeks ago where we kind of made a big choice or big decision where what side of the field we're going to be able to put our player development stuff. And right now we're thinking we're going to be able to stay on the third base side. I've always wanted to stay on the third base side, but it's just a matter of how much of that parking lot is the university going to give us, which they've been great to work with. Can you get everything we want and need, both for development of the player, recruiting, everything else, to be on that side of the field without affecting expanding the stadium from a seating standpoint on that side of the field. We want to do it on all sides of the field, but the most attractive seating in the new ballpark will be on the third base and left field side, simply because you don't have to look into the sun as much. I want to put chairbacks everywhere we can put them. Obviously, everybody knows that our footprint is what our footprint is. And so the university has said, hey, you can only go so far with some things, but you can go up as much as you want. And so I can't wait to show everybody the things that I've seen because I think what we have a chance to do, and obviously we've got to go raise the money, is we have a chance to do something different than any other SEC park. Like the things that they've shown us, the people that design these things, and they're so smart, how creative they are to be able to go up in the outfield down both lines. Man, we could do something that, like Camden Yards changed the direction of Major League Baseball stadiums. We can change the direction of college baseball from a facility standpoint. We're totally capable of doing it, but it's going to take a pretty penny to get it done.
All right, you got me really excited about it, so I'll follow it up with, you said it never goes as fast as the coach or the fans want, but how fast is realistic, I guess?
I think, we definitely have to, we got to get going on some of the, red tape stuff to hit the marks so that potentially at the end of this season, we could get going. And to do the things that I would like to do, that I think Texas A&M deserves, it could take like 3 phases.
Right.
You could have a phase where you knock out the player development stuff, and then you have a phase where you do the seating. Well, the seating, our field needs redone. Our playing surface hasn't been redone in 17 years. Most schools, you're redoing if you have a grass field, you're doing redoing your field every 4 to 5 years, and we're at ag schools, right? So this should be happening more often. But when you go to work on that, the seats, to do that like they did at Kyle Field, you got to drive things on the field, and you're tearing the field up. So there's probably going to be like a June to a February where we don't get to use our field. so maybe we have to go somewhere else in the community to practice, which I'm glad to pay that price. So I would say in my own mind, I'm trying to get some things moving so that when this year's over, we can get started. Then you do as much as you can. Then you play a season. Then you do as much as you can and keep phasing that thing in to get it right to where we look up 3 years from now and we have put that flag down that Nolan talked about.
That's pretty exciting. I'm sure the fan base you're going to get a lot of texts about that one. Before we let you go, there's a name that we have not talked about. And just when you go back and you look at year one and how successful that team was behind Troy Claunch's leadership and Dylan Rock's leadership, those guys that were coming in, Cole Kaler, the last year of their college experience at Texas A&M, but with a lot of skins on the wall elsewhere. And they came in, they were such an integral part of the chemistry and the production of that team. I think you got a guy similar in Teddy Burton, and we haven't talked about him yet out of the transfer portal from Michigan.
Yeah, Teddy's the guy that he put his name in the portal early, kind of like a Ivy League guy. He put his name in during the season simply because he wasn't going to be able to go back there for grad school. So we were able to really create a great relationship with him. There's less than 10 players that have hit 40 or more homers in a Michigan career, and Teddy Burton's one of them. And so right-handed power, we know how the wind blows in our ballpark, and most of the SEC ballparks, once it starts to warm up, right-handed power is something we desperately need. Obviously, Montgomery's going to give that as a switch hitter. Targo give that as a switch hitter. Grahovic has a great chance to give us some of that. But Teddy's a guy that can, he can play second base. He can run to the outfield if we need him to. He's played first base before, so he's going to be a big part of this deal, as is Targo, because we need protection for Lavalette and Montgomery.
And for Jace, the next step for him, you as his coach, is what? I think the production you just let happen, but the next step for his progression as a ball player and man.
I think it just. You're not going to sneak up on anybody, not that he did last year, but he needs to continue to refine his game. We're going to look at him as a center fielder, and he did that for Team USA. But just continuing to, you got that target on your back, which he's really dealt with that his entire life, right? All the great players do. But Jace, I think, can evolve. He has some leadership qualities, and the fact that he's a sophomore, that doesn't mean he can't be a leader on our club. So just continue his normal progression as a player. Doesn't need to change much. Continue to be able to handle all the lefties that he has to face, and he'll continue to do that. So just keep on that steady rise of progression that he's doing. He's such a great young man. We're fully confident. We got to keep him healthy. That's a big deal.
You pumped for football?
Oh, dude, I'm so excited for football. I was listening to the preview for Tulane this morning driving in. So, I'm super jacked for football. I'll probably sneak over to practice here in the next couple of weeks. And I watched the Johnny's documentary the third time last
How'd you
night.
think Billy looked?
Yeah, if he would freaking go to the barber every now and then, he looks great without a hat on. He looks great. But, just trim it up, buddy. Trim it up.
Schloss, we appreciate you, sir.
Thanks, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, gig him. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Jim Schloss-Single here on the show. All right, we'll come back with Recruiting Country and Bronny next on TexAgs Radio. And we are back. It is TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. The Go Hour will be in the 10 o'clock hour because we switched things around with the old switcheroo. Ryan Brauninger with us here for Recruiting Country. I do want to read some text messages here in a moment before we get started. But Recruiting Country presented by Caprock Health System, a faster patient-centered revolution in care with 2 ERs in the BCS, the original 24-hour ER in South College Station on William D. Fitch, and the full-service hospital with ER in Bryan on Briarcrest, online at caprockhealthsystem.com. If you do have questions for Ryan Brauninger, I don't know why I went first and last name, send those to the text line, 979-693-1150. Kennedy Cabin, hello. Are you there?
She's not even here.
I heard somebody there. I didn't.
Hey.
I think it was maybe her or Hannah walking around the back door.
All right, I'll read the text message. Don't worry about it, Kennedy.
Stay in the truck. We got it.
Sutton in College Station. You guys have such a great rapport with Coach. JB and Canyon. Hey, Luch, trim it up. That was classic.
Yeah.
And we did get that stadium update, John, so the good stuff there. All right, Bronny, when we start with recruiting.
I have to switch gears here, man.
Yeah, mentally, I had to
Yeah.
So recently, a couple of bigger name guys committing to, Texas and Oklahoma.
LSU.
And LSU, sorry.
Caden Durham and Colin Simmons from Duncanville.
So, very early stages, obviously. Just kind of give us an update on those names and where A&M could still potentially be a player.
Well, it's getting late early. I mean, with those kind of players, you can say that it's early. And, like, genuinely, you know how much can happen in recruiting in a week. So there is time.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when they commit elsewhere and they were one of some of your top targets, it is tough to get them off of that. Now, what I will say is that A&M was never really in the picture for Colin Simmons outside of a couple of week window where he came and visited. Hey, Kennedy.
I was wrapping my toe upstairs.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
A little descriptive. You could have just
I
said
broke my
wrap-
pinky toe, and I had to, like, a month and a half ago, and I just have to wrap it in my normal shoe, and
So
my
out of
doctor's
breath.
going to get mad at me. So I'm sorry for not being
Are you out
here.
of
okay.
breath?
Huh?
Are you out of breath?
Yeah, I was in Dalton's office because that's where the first aid kit was, and he had the show on, and I heard.
Hey, for the record, I didn't do that on purpose. I heard somebody
No,
back
I
there,
know,
and my
and I
back
was
is
like,
to
oh,
you.
here we go. I'm about to get lit up.
No,
So
I'm nice now. I'm not mean to people anymore.
the man sitting next to you.
No, this is true.
I'm trying to be professional, and I was in the middle of a thought. She just waltzes
Sorry, you didn't have to say hey.
in. I'm trying to be polite.
Okay, well, I'm back on my game. Answer your question.
Where were we?
It was with
Colin Simmons
yeah,
and late in the game.
right. And there was about a 2-week window where A&M, they got a kind of a quiet visit from Colin, and they had kind of gotten into the race, but when he cut it down to his final 3 schools, A&M wasn't in it. That being said, if A&M is a team of note in college football this year, I don't think they're completely out of it based off some of the stuff that we've been able to gather since his commitment to Texas. And I'm not just saying that A&M's not out of it. I think that Texas is going to have to fight to hold on to him. Now, I think Texas is going all in with Sark, man, and they're being super aggressive with their recruiting. They've got a really good roster. They've got a schedule that I think benefits them when you compare their talent to what they're going to be playing against. That's kind of a common theme with Texas, but I do think they've got the pieces this year to really make a run at something that they haven't done since the mid-2000s, late 2000s.
They've won 13 games in 2 years.
Right.
In the Big 12. I just throw that out there
Sure.
just as a reminder.
It's hard for me to look at their schedule and imagine them losing more than 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Just with the kind of talent they have. I think Quinn Ewer's a good quarterback. Sark can call offensive games. And I think that they're riding a little bit of that wave, right? Like, they're super aggressive on the recruiting front. They've gone all in with Sark. They know what their roster has to look like coming into this league next year, and there's going to be some turnover of some kind of household names for Longhorns next year. When you're talking about Quinn Ewers, Xavier Worthy, Jordan Whittington, all these guys that have been around a while and made a bunch of plays, they're highly likely that they are going to be their final seasons in Austin. So this is a big push, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong. I actually commend them for doing this. It's very prudent. It's very smart. That being said, like, nobody's going to give up on a player like Colin Simmons. Just like on the A&M side, nobody's going to give up on a kid like Draylon Miller.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So there is going to be some back and forth. There's been some heavyweight swings between A&M and Texas. You know, Texas landing Colin Simmons is a big one. A&M landing Miles Davis was a big one for them. Micah Hudson it really feels like that one's going to be Texas Tech.
Tech, yeah.
But the longer that it goes on with him not committing to Tech, you're going, okay, like, if they've been out front for so long, what's the deal? So, again, that might be a kid that's going to keep an eye on what's happening around college football. I don't care how many receivers A&M's got committed or how many receivers they're still pursuing. Micah Hudson always has a spot, no matter.
Always,
and
yep.
that's not just A&M. That's Ohio State. That's Sam Houston State. With a kid like Micah Hudson,
Everybody wants him. Yeah,
they've always got a spot. But to speak to what happened this past couple of weeks, again, like, Caden Durham was a kid that A&M really liked, and A&M had him on campus. They did a great job with him and his mom. I just don't – I never got the feeling that they were, like, in the driver's seat at any point of that recruitment. So that one felt like Oklahoma and LSU from the jump. When A&M got into it, I was like, man, this kid just doesn't – there are certain kids, when you do this long enough, David, they just feel like they're A&M kids.
you're right.
Like, I felt like that with Ty Anthony Smith and Draylon Miller, and they got really close, Draylon, to committing to LSU and USC before A&M. A&M, I felt like from the very beginning, did a great job, and I wrote a big giant piece about the work that A&M did this cycle in Southeast Texas. But for Draylon, I'd always felt like, okay, he'll come back. Like Ty Anthony got really close to committing to USC, but again, like when I just examined the whole thing, I'm like, Ty Anthony Smith just feels like an A&M kid.
Right.
So those Duncanville kids never felt like A&M kids. You know what I'm saying? And that doesn't mean A&M can't sign them. I never thought Denver Harris was an A&M kid. They signed him. You know what I'm saying? Like there are guys that they sign each and every year. You go back to Amari Daniels. Like I didn't think A&M was going to sign Amari Daniels, and they did.
And they
so
get him, yeah.
It happens. It's common, but it's funny, man. Like there's a lot riding on the seasons in Austin and in College Station this year. So with all the work that you do in the summer, it can be enhanced by what happens on the field, or it can be undone by what happens on the field in either spot.
And if both do really well this year,
they'll both sign top 5-6 classes,
Yep.
no question.
Yep.
It's going to be hard for anybody to catch what Georgia's already done in this. And like, I wouldn't expect Georgia to have a season where they're going to lose a bunch of commitments.
no. How about Kobe Black? The wave, the momentum there seems to be favoring Austin again, right?
Yeah, well, that's one that the pendulum has swung back and forth a bunch, and it just kind of depends on what side of the clock that you're on that day and that week or that month. But yeah, so I think it was with Texas, it swung back to A&M around the pool party, and it stuck with A&M for a while, and now I think it's swung back toward Texas. From what we're hearing, there's not an expected decision to be announced for a while. I think if there is one, it'll be in favor of Texas. But I think if it goes longer and it goes into the fall and he takes some more visits, then obviously that opens the door for the pendulum to swing back toward A&M. And so this one has some ups and downs probably coming. You got to be able to ride the roller coaster. I think Jimbo Fisher, DJ Durkin, and Coach BGA are in it for the long haul for Kobe, and they understand that with what's happening on the roster, when you look at the roster at corner and what's probably going to happen in the next couple of years and the turnover, like this is an instant impact kid. Tyreek Chappelle came in and played as a true freshman. Jalen Jones came in and played as a true freshman. So under Jimbo Fisher, there is a path to play as a true freshman at corner, and I think they can sell that.
I do want to ask you, I don't think we talked together, Papa, right? We didn't talk about
No, I don't think I've been on here and talked about Papa.
So just
what was that, Saturday?
I think it was Saturday over the weekend, and we had Billy on Monday. Yes, we haven't spoken about it.
So that was, it's kind of weird how you can, and that was one of the points of my article is like, whenever you pluck a kid from an area, you just don't know. Like Bryce Anderson was a big recruiting win, paying dividends now 2 years down the road. Mark Naboo, nabbing him a couple years ago out of Seattle, out of O'Day High School. I don't know if they knew at the time what kind of player Papa was or would be, or that he would be a top target of theirs a couple years down the road. But there's no way that you get Papa a fool without landing Mark Naboo first. So a huge credit goes out to Jimbo Fisher and the recruiting staff and Steve Adazio. This is a kid that came to campus a couple of years ago and fell in love with just A&M. He came to camp and was back in the old indoor. I remember watching him in one-on-one. So I like the journey this kid's been on. Obviously, I love his tape, love him as a prospect and as a player. I think when you pop the tape on, the first thing that you see is power. And that's kind of typical of those Polynesian guys. They play with so much just raw strength and power. And he's also reshaped his body so that and kind of reshaped his skill set to give him some positional versatility. Like right now, I wouldn't pencil him in at guard or tackle. I think it could be both. And it kind of depends on what he does when he gets here and what the roster needs and where do they put him? Do they dual train him or do they stick him at one spot? But I like what they're doing. They're going to get a lot of tackle-type bodies that can always move, and you can move those guys around, man.
Yeah.
And one thing about Papa, Weston Davis, Ashton Funk, they all check a ton of boxes that I have gotten. When I go watch an offensive lineman play, the attributes that you like do they have, first of all, if they've got just crazy athleticism that can override a lot of other stuff.
Right.
But if they don't, some of the things, like, do you understand the game of football? Do you understand who you're supposed to block? Do you understand schemes? Do you understand leverage? Do you understand angles? All that kind of stuff. And I think this group that they've got right now committed is a very good mixture of all that stuff. Like Weston Davis is an elite athlete. I mean, this is a kid that played on one of the best high school basketball teams in the country, played a lot, at 6'5", 290 pounds. So his feet, his agility is outstanding. Ashton Funk, Cohen Eccles, extremely cerebral kids. And then, am I missing one? Funk, Eccles, Davis, and now Papa. They've got 4 committed? Yeah, because they're still after Blake Ivy. And Papa, I think, is a good blend of all those things. And so I really, I'm a fan of this offensive line group as it stands right now. If you go add a kid that's a versatile athlete like Blake Ivy to it, then you'd have to give it an A right now.
All right, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with more. If you got a question for Bronny, send it on the text line 979-693-1150. Milliken Reserve is a farm-to-table community right here in College Station that has homes, trails, farms, and wide open spaces. And their mission is to build a healthy community around nature, and they've done that with just a beautiful place, creating a sanctuary for family, for nature, and for community. They have respect for that native landscape and wildlife with 2,600 acres of open space farms and trails. They've got homes all over the place. It's just a beautiful community to go live in. And if you don't live in the Milliken Reserve community, you can just go visit and just enjoy all the activities that they have out there, like the hiking, the biking, the canoeing, the kayaking, the equestrian trails, the evening yoga, the summer camps, the music festivals, the farmer markets, and the farm tours. A wonderful place that has all the native species that live there in those preserved woods and the ponds and the creeks. You got the white-tailed deer, the songbirds, the rabbits, and the turtles. Learn more about it by visiting millikenreserve.com. That website, again, is millikenreserve.com. It's Milliken Reserve. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance. Did I yell?
Yeah, weird voice yell.
Did I? How did it sound?
I don't know. Like you were introducing The Price is Right.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into TexAgs Radio. That was a little Dave South, maybe.
Oh, that was a little Dave South.
Not as good, but
you can find pumping iron in the gym every now and then.
Always.
Yeah.
And I saw. Never mind. I'll just tell you at the break. I just saw
you can't do that.
One of the characters that we see at the gym who just goes crazy on the sit-up machine.
Oh.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
All right. It's Recruiting Country presented by Caprock Health System. I wanted to ask you about your interview with Michael Bishop, how that went. You guys talked a little with Josh Moses, I should say.
Yeah.
I can't
almost
speak.
said osmosis.
I think I'm having a freaking stroke on the air. I apologize.
So, that's the Michael Bishop. I mean, I was 11, 12 years old watching him at K-State.
I was in college. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, but it was like, he was incredible at Kansas State and really put them on the map for that run they went on. That was, Bill Snyder had that. It was that JUCO pipeline that he was building his rosters with. Michael Bishop played at Blinn and went up to Kansas State and was sensational that year. I mean, if A&M doesn't beat them in the Big 12 championship, they go play for the national title.
Yeah, they do.
And, so talking – I've gotten to know Coach Bishop since he's been in Houston and coaching there at Legacy, and he's fantastic things to say about Josh as a kid. And, so Josh as a player, really, really good. Interior offensive line prospect, 6'4", 320 pounds, light on his feet. But when you talk to him, the most interesting thing about him is what his interests are off the field, and the fact that he plays 3 instruments and he plays in a band, and that he wants to own his own restaurant, and now he's decided that he wants to do a barbecue restaurant. And so, his dreams and aspirations are not all tied into the football field.
Right.
He's just so multifaceted. And then, so to hear a guy like Coach Bishop talk about Josh in the day-to-day and kind of say it's just very similar. And he's such a soft-spoken and nice young man, but on the field, it is the switch flips. And so getting the insight and the analysis from a guy that's around him the day-to-day was pretty cool. And then obviously talking to a guy that's a college football legend, and now he's just, just a normal guy wanting to impact kids in Greater Houston.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate your time.
That's it?
Yeah, we're done. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Do you have anything else you want to
I had
say?
so much more to say.
What do you tell us?
I just couldn't,
we got 40 seconds. Go.
No, the Schloss interview
was great.
Was outstanding. But, I didn't want to get out of this hour without talking about, first of all, there's a lot of information in there. And if you're an Aggie baseball fan, some of the stuff he said should have got you pretty pumped up. The stadium remodel, them talking about going vertical, that's super intriguing to me. And when Nolan Kane said at our kickoff, they want to plant a flag in the ground. That's something nobody else has done. I think it sounds like the ball is rolling for them to do that. So I'm I'm pumped to see what it looks like.
You want to stay longer? I mean, you don't have to leave. I mean, we got John Harris. I can tell him, hold up. You good?
No, it's your show.
Huh. It's our show. I've been entrusted by the people. I'm like the Green Bay Packers. I'm owned by our audience.
You're owned by one man with a mullet.
Okay, that's just sounded very rude. We'll be back, TexAgs. This is a jam. I think John Harris can remind me. This was on repeat for J.J. Watt back in the day. Am I right about that, John? Does that sound familiar? It is TexAgs Radio, by the way. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We've got John Harris, who's getting ready for the Dolphins and the Texans joint practices. How's the vibe out there?
It's good. Watching the Dolphins on the opposite field over here right now. Just kind of go through a little walkthrough. The Texans will come on the field here at 9 o'clock. Actually, they're in the bubble, so they're getting ready. So it's always fun with these joint practices. I know people talk about the fights and all that. I always think there's good work to be had in these joint practices. You're seeing different teams. Watching Tua Tagovailoa just go through his motions and things like that. It's, these players that you watch. We saw the Dolphins last year, actually years for that too. But to see a different team, it's always kind of cool, especially when you're on your turf and it's a little bit more casual than a game. So it's kind of cool. And so looking forward to seeing what Tyreek Hill and the guys have for the Texans today and how the Texans respond.
John, do you see a scenario ever where colleges do these joint practices, or it's just too hard to do something like that?
Yeah, I think it'll happen at some point because I think the colleges will realize, look, there's some good work to be had in these joint practices. And it also might be a way where you can incorporate maybe some of the rivalries that might be lost, maybe, in some way, shape, or form. Like, can you imagine joint practices between Texas and Texas A&M at Kyle Field last year or a year before that? You could do something like that, make some money with it. As soon as the schools realize, hey, we can make some money with this, yeah, maybe. And plus, I think where college football is going, I think you might end up with kind of a 28 to 30 team Premier League sort of thing, and you might need some of those joint practices. You may not face all the teams in the quote unquote Premier League of college football, so you might want to have some joint practices, and that might be something you build in when that day arrives. So yeah, I think college football is probably the slowest to react to anything. I mean, you look at the playoffs. So then once they get the playoffs, they're like, these 14 are great, but let's go to 12. Before long, hey, 12 is great. Let's go to 16. So the college football is always late to the party. But I think what they'll realize is their product will be better in weeks 1, 2, and 3 in particular if they can have some of these joint practices and do some of those things that the NFL does. So, look, the NFL can learn some things from college, and college can learn some things from the NFL. This is what I wish that college football definitely learned.
John Harris with us here, footballtakeover.com, Texans sideline reporter. John, through all the joint practices that you've been with the Texans, I've been to a few of them with you. Which was your favorite? Was the trip to Denver? Is it, I don't know, was it the Washington Commanders that came down one year? I don't know. I can't remember all of them. Which was some of the more impactful memories? Because there's been fights in a lot of them, right? The one in Washington, there was a fight, I believe.
In Washington, there was a full-out brawl.
Yeah.
On both fields. They had two fields adjacent to one another, and really no divider. Like here, we have dividers between fields 1, 2, and 3, and so they had no dividers. So there's basically like 10 yards in between the fields, and so this fight breaks out on field 1, and then that bled over onto field 2. So you've got 90 guys and staff members, and I mean it was a full-on brawl. And I remember that day because it was a weird day in Richmond. It was like 65 degrees and raining and cold. It was weird. And so none of us got rain gear or jackets or anything. We're freezing, and we're watching them fight one another. That's pretty wild. And, of course, on Hard Knocks, Jonathan Joseph with the famous line, let's get the bleep out of Richmond, which is true. We were all ready to get out at that particular point. But I think my favorite one was probably in Green Bay in 2019, going up to Green Bay. Packers hadn't had joint practices up there for a long time. In fact, we were the first for a while. So we got to spend a week up there in Green Bay. My family is from 40 minutes from there. I've got cousins in Green Bay. My aunt and uncle live in Green Bay. So that was a good one for me. And then to be in Lambeau Field for the first time in a while was always great. But those are the two that stand out. And probably the other one would be the Falcons in 14. because J.J. Watt just wrecked shop. And that's when the Falcons run Hard Knocks. And it was awesome to watch it live and then see it back on a Hard Knock. Because J.J., that was the year J.J. went nuts. And he went crazy on every single one of those offensive linemen. They had no chance. None. And that's when J.J. was hyped up J.J. I mean, he'd win a rep, and, I mean, every rep he won, and he won it just beautifully. So that was another one that stood out here back and forth against the Falcons.
John, my least and most favorite was the Denver one because that's the infamous haircut that happened that will not be talked about again. But we can move on from that, Johnny. Hey, A-Chain, you get to see him up close and personal again. Let's just talk a little bit about what he's been able to do there early with his time in Miami, and also the fact that Dalvin Cook looks like he's going to the Jets, so it won't affect his standing there with the Dolphins.
Yeah, I see A-Chain right now carrying the football. And, you know, in the preseason game the other night, I thought it was interesting. I want to say he had like 3 or 4 catches, but his burst is just sick. And I can't wait to see it up close. I know it's going to give our linebackers some issue, but the one thing that our linebackers and Texans can do is run. So he's going to present a pretty stiff test. I'm looking forward to him, you know, being back, you know, a Houston homeboy, Fort Bend Marshall. You know, Jalen Waddle is, I think, here, but I don't know if he's going to work out. You know, for a physical, literally, that's not a mile and a half up the road. So a lot of guys with Houston ties here, but A-Chain gives them just a different element. That, I mean, they've got speed now. Don't get me wrong, but his speed and quickness are just completely different because it's coming from the running back position or where you would line up a running back. You can put him in the slot, do those things, but you can put Tyreek there. But you're not really going to put Tyreek in the backfield. So there are a lot of different things you can do with A-Chain, and just watching that preseason game the other day, you can just see the explosiveness and how much fun Mike McDaniel, offensive head coach that he is, calling the plays over there. I think Mike McDaniel has a fun time. Look, it's not like they're hurting for running back. Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, pretty are good, but A-Chain is just a different level. And with no Dalvin Cook in a picture, I actually think that opens things up even more for A-Chain. I think he's going to be very, very dangerous. And, David, here's the thing about preseason. I think that we may not see a lot of A-Chain in the game because they're going to save him. They're going to need him. With not having the opportunity to get Dalvin Cook, I think they're going to save A-Chain from here on out. We did that with Damian Pierce last year. He didn't play in week 2 at all. He didn't take a snap. And then played a little bit in week 3. So I think A-Chain, we may not see him in the game, but we're going to see a lot of him in practice, and that's going to be a good thing.
John Harris with us here on TexAgs Radio. John, let's talk a little bit about how Mike McDaniel has changed the vibe, the culture there with the Dolphins. What makes him, beyond just being a very, very good play caller, the right fit for the Dolphins?
I think he has a really good understanding of his players. I think he really gets these guys for the Dolphins. And just listen to his press conference earlier. He's very measured and thoughtful with everything that he says. You know, a lot of coaches, they hear the question, they're almost cutting off the end of the question because they don't, they know what they want to say. He listens to everything, very thoughtful. He's thinking through how he should say things. He's talking about Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle from Clemson, who's going to start for the Dolphins, and talking about, contract situation. And just listening to Mike talk about that, you get the feeling that Mike really gets his guys. He understands them. And I think that's a big thing in the NFL, to understand what you have in your locker room, understand how they all fit. And that's a big thing for a head coach. Mike Vrabel has that for the Titans. Now, at some point you go in and you find guys that fit like you, but when you're new to a situation, relatively new, you don't have that right away. And so you've got to kind of learn that until you can get your kind of guys in. I think he's got his kind of guys with a little bit of an edge. I think Mike coaches with a little bit of an edge. And I think that makes the Dolphins the stuff out they're going to be this year. I think Dolphins are going to be very, very good this year. I think that defense is going to be nasty. If Tua stays healthy, I think they got a great shot at winning the AFC. I still think Buffalo does it, but I think the Dolphins are going to be right on their heels.
Johnny, what about the quarterback situation there with the Texans? CJ, how he looked. Davis Mills apparently looking really good as well, not only in the preseason game, but just overall. How do you kind of caddy that whole situation?
Well, it's been the best quarterback situation we've had in years, David. Since 2019. I mean, I think it's been a situation in which all quarterbacks have stepped up. I think, and I know you like boxing, or at least I know you used to like boxing. And, if you took, we've got 14 days of training camp. Today's the 15th, so it's a 15-round fight. I would say that TJ has probably won 10 of those rounds, by the day. Davis has probably won 4 or 5 of them. And Davis has played much, much better. Last couple of days, Davis has played well. He played well in the preseason game. He missed a couple of throws with Sankdell, but I thought he settled in at that point. Now, TJ didn't have an opportunity to get in a rhythm, and I think that sort of hurt him. He got 2 drives of it. So I think he was forcing some things. I think he knew he didn't have time to kind of settle in. He just had to dive in. I think these 2 practices against the Dolphins are going to be big for CJ, but it's clear. He's QB1 unless he just falls off the face of the earth the next couple of weeks. The good thing is Davis Mills has gotten better with the 2 coaching staff. He's seeing the ball coming out quicker. It's going to the right guys. The ball placement's been better. But CJ has been that much better than Davis thus far in camp. But compared to a fight, it's probably about 9-10 rounds for CJ and probably 4 or 5 for Davis, which means Davis is in the fight. But QB1 is CJ Stroud. And the fact that Davis Mills is QB2 in a solid one, I feel good that something happened to CJ and you had to go to Davis. I feel a lot better than what they had to do last year, and that was to go to Kyle Allen, who really struggled when he came in.
Talking to John Harris here on TexAgs Radio. John, I don't know how much you can comment on it, but the Michael Orr story is just it's such drama that I don't think anybody saw coming from the initial report that he says that they were embezzling money or however the phrase was, and that then their families, lawyers are getting involved. Just a messy, messy story that was such a nice story here, 13, 14 years ago.
Yeah, and of course Hollywood can mess some things up, which is exactly where my daughter is right now, and I'm hoping that never happens to her. But I think there was some hard feelings about the movie and how he was portrayed, and I got it. I understood. I mean, guys are really smart dudes. They made him out to be this kind of flighty-looking high school kid who had no direction. Look, he was already getting recruiting letters from colleges. I mean, that was already happening before he eventually went to their home. I hate it. He said, she said, sort of stuff. And either way, it's a bad look for somebody, if not both. If they were making money off of him in the movie sense and weren't giving him money after being named his conservators or whatever it was, that's a bad look for sure. And if Michael Orr was trying to extort them for $15 million, that's a bad look for sure. It's a messy situation, and obviously when you start talking about families and money and power and all that kind of stuff, it gets pretty dicey, and I think that's where this one is. And it's unfortunate because Michael seems like a really good guy, and the movie made the series out to be pretty sweethearted and generous. But I think there's been a lot written about the series lately that look into these guys a little bit. People in Memphis not always the biggest fans of the series, but again, there's both sides. There's 2 sides to everything, and I hate the fact that this has happened for both families. Hopefully they get it figured out and get back to living their lives. I think I'm realizing, David, I'm now 51. I'm realizing, man, life is short. I look up and I'm like, holy cow, a guy that is my age, who I played against in college, Bill Lazor, he's a senior offensive assistant. I'm like, senior? And I don't want senior from my name. I don't want that. Too old to fight and complain about this kind of stuff, man. So get it right. Be family to each other. Love on each other. Life is too short to go through all this, man. So hopefully they get it right soon.
Johnny, what do you think about A&M coming in at 23 in the AP poll? And I'll just kind of preview that question with I don't even care if they're ranked or not. I think they just got to go prove it. But the fact that I think the coaches saw value in them, and now the AP voters as well.
Yeah, I think in my top 25, I'd probably put them in top 20 because I just think they're super talented. And talent in this game, especially in that conference, you got to have talent to match up with talent. I think they do, but it's just a matter of it all coming together. And Bobby Petrino really gets that offense going the way that he wants. I think that team is very, very dangerous. 2 wide receivers, one that would have been in the Harris 100 if he weren't a true sophomore, and one that is in the Harris 100. 2 offensive linemen that I think could be superstars. Actually 3. It's kind of Wegman. What can he do at quarterback with this system? And then defensively, they got stars upon stars. Now it's a matter of it all coming together. Erasing last year, being all on the same page, and Jimbo coaching his butt off, and making sure that everybody's on the right page and keeping guys healthy. They keep guys healthy. Unfortunately, lost Donovan Green. I think that's a big loss at tight end. But if they can keep everybody relatively healthy at that point, 23 is going to be a distant memory because they'll be a top 15 team if they can keep key guys healthy this year and Bobby Petrino in that offense click early.
Talking to John Harris here at TexAgs Radio. Johnny, I know you did a deep dive. I think you did a deep dive on Marvin Harrison Jr. and just breaking down some of the elite wide receivers. What was your takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, my takeaway from Marvin Harrison Jr. is he's the best I've studied probably the last couple of decades. I mean, he's phenomenal. 6'4", 205, tremendous ball skills, amazing body control. He's got the pedigree. He's just incredible, catcher of the football. I mean, anywhere you want to go, he's got a great feel. He's physical. He's got some swag to him. I mean, there's everything about Marvin Harrison. So you can see I put the film on, bro, over at my YouTube page at JH Football Takeover. And I just, over the last few days, I dropped my Harrison 100, the top 50 SEC draft prospects this year. And then this morning, I dropped my top 30 from the Big 12. So you can see all that at footballtakeover.com. Small subscription price to kind of build my business. So anybody that can fit you in to help out and read some great content and have it with you forever, there you go. Basically, you get my brain for like $25, $30 a month. That's not bad. I mean, my brain's kind of cobwebs, but it's not too bad. And hopefully there's enough football so you can get your money's worth for sure.
So Johnny, you there to talk about Marvin Harrison Jr., and there's been a lot of conversations about the A&M wide receiver group. So let's just close off with that. Just your thoughts on the totality of that group that does include Anias, that does include Evan, that does include Noah, all day. Like, there's a lot of players that have some elite skills. How do you put that group overall?
Well, the three guys everybody knows, obviously Aggie knows everybody, but, Stewart, Muhammad, and Anias. Being Anias back, I thought was huge because I had heard back in late February or March that he was leaving. And then I saw he was coming back. I think that's great because you've got, the Weapon X capabilities that he has. You got the outside receivers with Stewart and Muhammad. Obviously, if Noah is what we think he can do, and you're talking about the best wide receiver group in the SEC. Think off the top of my head, I don't know that I have any others I could go with because I would have had. I had Musa Muhammad at I think 50-ish, somewhere in the Harris 100. Anias is just outside the 100, and Evan Stewart would have been a top 20 pick. So you're talking about guys that I think have high NFL draft futures, and you just got to find a way to get everybody the ball and get everybody to be happy. So even though you're losing Donovan Green, I still think you can hit various areas on the field where Green might have been successful. You just have to use the receivers and an eye to be able to do that. But I think that receiver group, I think it's as good as any group in the country. I think Ohio State might be the best. Marvin Harrison and Mecca Bruker, Julian Fleming. But beyond that, USC got a good one, but I don't think it's better than A&M. So I'm curious to see what they do in that Petrino offense. The dudes are going to be open. Now they've got to continue to make plays.
Johnny, you mentioned Donovan Green. I guess I'd be remiss not asking about that. Again, like wide receiver, the tight end group, a very deep room. Maybe not a lot of experience there, but a very deep room for A&M.
And I'm curious how Bobby's going to use the tight end, too. The one thing I think about Bobby is the fact that he'll take whatever he's got and make the offense out of it. I mean, we had Lamar Jackson one year, he had Ryan Mallett one year. They're not running the same offense. So I think with Green being hurt, obviously you're going to have some tight end options. But I don't know if I want Max doing everything Donovan does, but, he can give you kind of fullback tight end stuff. So I do think there might be maybe a little bit shift into more 11 personnel because you do have all those receivers, and maybe even at times some 10 personnel. But you have those options, and I think Bobby Petrino is the one that can make the most out of what he's got there. And I think that's the biggest thing. So with no Donovan Green, yeah, you still have some options, but I think the better options might be in the receiving game. So 10, 11 personnel might be a really better option until you maybe find that tight end threat. Maybe it is Max. Maybe Max is that guy. I don't know. I don't foresee that, but I do think they'll use him in different ways. And I think that's going to make the duality of the A&M offense that much more difficult to stop. But I do anticipate with Green being out, a lot more 11 personnel than I was probably anticipating beforehand.
Johnny, I appreciate it, brother. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. Take care, David. Thank you, buddy.
See you, man. John Harris, they're calling us from the Texans-Dolphins joint practice. I felt like a rock concert in the background, but some good intel there. By the way, we'll get into some more thoughts of what Johnny said because I'd love to see joint practices at the college level. I think it'd be cool just from a covering standpoint. I'd like to see that, but I can't see it working because of the amount of people that would have to travel for that and just the staying overnight for a few. I mean, I know you can do it for a game, but it just seemed like a pretty big takeover. But maybe at some point. Let's hit a break here. We'll come back with some text messages on the hotline. You can do that at 979-693-1150. You can also call up the show, no problem at all. Does your knee or pain keep getting worse, guys? Many of you have pain all over the place, right? Your back, your knee, your shoulder, your hip, wherever it may be. Don't allow that to stop you from having fun, right? Don't allow that from stopping you from engaging in some activities that you'd like to do with your family. Don't let the experts, so-called, if you will, tell you that steroids or surgery are your only option, because there's other options. Take my advice and call QC Kinetics. They can make that pain go away with an all-natural, advanced regenerative medicine treatment. They're helping people every day right here in the Brazos Valley with these amazing treatments that restore and repair that damaged tissue. It is like turning back the clock, how you felt when you were much younger, when you were able to do, I don't know, jump rope. When's the last time a guy just jumped rope just to do it? Regenerative medicine uses concentrated healing agents from your own body to stimulate that damaged tissue in your joints so they can work like they're supposed to, and there is zero downtime. I mentioned zero. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in this exciting medical breakthrough. Patients are getting real lasting relief and are saying no to that surgery and no to the drugs out there. What you should do is call them up right now at 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That is 979-452-6000. I think we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. That was Kennedy Cavan in the background saying, "Is that Bad Bunny?" I thought you'd be very proud of me, Miss Cavan. There was, I don't know, a couple months ago, maybe a year ago, some time ago, there was a song playing, and I said, "Who's that?" And you're like, "That's John Party." And I was like, "Who's that?" Well, now John Party's on the playlist.
I was the one that said that's John Party.
I think it was you. If not you, it was somebody who looked like you. Do you not know John Party?
I do know John Party, obviously. It's one of my dad's favorite artists.
Is he? So that's old people music? I thought he was more young people music.
It's not old people music. My dad just likes him.
Okay.
Like, I mean, he makes good music, good country music.
So I realized that Nick, and we're not going to talk too much music here, but I know Nick has a completely different playlist than I would have.
Yeah, Nick is an old country guy.
Old country guy.
Sure.
So,
Oh.
wait.
No, that's fair. Yeah.
The way you said "sure" didn't sound
Yeah,
like
it sounded
Sorry.
sarcastic.
But like I'll start naming some, because I think I'm now dabbling in the country music genre,
Yeah.
right? I have a playlist
Good.
that I listen to, right?
Okay.
I'm gonna list some of the artists on here, and I'm gonna and Kennedy,
Do you want me to say valid or not valid?
valid for you, and then what you think Nick would say.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm answering
do I
for
get
Nick.
a say?
Huh?
Do I get
Yeah,
a
you
say?
absolutely. I already
Okay.
know the answer to some of these.
I just have to confirm with
Right.
Kennedy or
All
not.
right.
Okay.
But am I answering for Nick?
You're going to answer for yourself and Nick, and then
Okay.
Nick will confirm or deny.
Okay, okay,
And then
okay,
we'll do
okay.
this quick because I wanted some
All right.
football in this segment. All right. The one that my favorite on my playlist,
Okay.
Zach Bryan.
I say valid for me. I know Nick is not a Zach Bryan fan, so
Yeah,
not
I'm
valid
out.
for Nick.
He's
not
out.
valid.
He's against the Navy, apparently. Okay. Ryan Bingham.
valid.
And I say valid
AF.
for him too, right?
Valid AF for both of us.
Nick.
Correct.
I'm going to say not on this one. This is my guess. John Party.
I think he's a little more pop country, so probably not valid for Nick. I enjoy some of his music, but probably if we're looking at like classic country vibes, not John Party. Not
Kennedy
valid.
is so good.
All right.
Correct.
This next one, I'm doubling down that Nick's all in.
Okay.
Alan Jackson.
Valid.
Yeah,
Play
that's
all day.
Duh.
easy money.
Jorge Strait.
Valid.
Valid.
King.
You don't have to ask me on that one.
Okay, this one I'm torn because definitely new guy. Not
Okay.
new, but new-ish.
Okay.
But has an old vibe to him. Luke Combs.
Oh, valid. Luke Combs is my ride or die. I love Luke Combs. Incredible in person. He is valid.
But I'm going to say not valid completely anymore because he's got a pop song on the radio that
Yeah,
you can hear
and,
on
like,
Candy. So
but-
Nick's out.
Nick might be
What
out on
song
him.
is on Candy of his?
The-
Fast Car?
Yeah, Fast Car.
Really?
That's
That's a
old
good song.
country too, though.
Is Tracy Chapman's not old country?
Yeah,
well,
that's not a
like
country.
super old country.
No,
but
not
like,
even
that's
country.
Like, I mean, Luke
That was on
Combs,
Pop.
and I will defend him until the day that I am in the
I
grave.
will say valid on him.
Luke Combs
David,
is
actually.
valid.
But you probably don't like fast cars. Right?
I do actually.
Oh,
It's
okay.
his
That's fine.
version is good. I like it.
Okay. Walker Hayes, Kevin.
Can't say I've
Is
ever
that
heard
the
that name.
Applebee's song
The
guy?
fancy, yeah. My daughter loves it. I
I've
hate it.
never
Sorry.
heard that name.
No, if you heard it, you.
Is that like the TikTok app? What Nick said, the Applebee's on
Yeah.
a Sunday
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, there you go.
Not
my,
valid.
My daughters like that one.
Disgusting.
Big and Rich.
Valid.
I don't think Nick is
You want
into
to
Big and
party?
Rich.
You
Well,
want to
d-
have fun?
I
Valid.
told you that already, David.
Did-
like
I don't
when I
remember
was
what you told
growing
me.
up. Okay, cool. Then I'll. Anyways, I used to listen to them a lot growing up, but not so much anymore.
Midland.
I think Midland is good. I think they have kind of a hint of an old country vibe to them, but still kind of poppy. So I would say like halfway valid.
I think Nick is in. Nick, are you in? with
I'm
Midland?
in. I've seen them live. They're
Okay.
good.
I haven't had the chance to see them live.
This next one, I'm torn.
Okay.
Eric Church, Iglesia.
I don't know. Eric Church, again, kind of with what I said about Midland, I would say halfway valid. Like some
Yeah.
songs are bangers, some songs are like really just poppy.
I agree with you.
I'm there with y'all as well.
Okay. Coulter Wall.
I saw that text come in, so I looked him up. He is a Canadian singer-songwriter.
Oh, I
Never
didn't
heard
even
of
know
him.
text. He's on my playlist. So.
Oh, I've never heard of him.
Yeah.
Nick.
Well, first of all, let me just be the first to say that I put you on to him
Oh, sorry.
all
I
the way
apologize.
in on Coulter
Who-
Wall. He's
I
What
do
would I
remember you
my
know
telling me
him
that.
favorite
Yeah.
artist, David Edmond. Yeah, Coulter Wall's valid.
Okay.
I don't know
He's
what that
he's very good.
All right, a couple more because this is going way longer than I thought.
is. This is fun.
I'm just enjoying it. Uncle Lucius.
valid.
With the name Uncle, I think he's out.
Here's the thing. The reason I'm not having to say valid, I'm saying valid is because my boyfriend's family loves him.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
So that
Maybe I'm wrong.
represents Nick.
I could be completely wrong on that too,
Nick-
mixing it up with another artist, but valid.
I'm guessing you're out on Uncle Lucius.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I don't know that much about him anyway, so can't comment.
Maybe like two more. All right, because I'm like four of us like this segment. Billy's gonna call me later and be like, "Dude, what was that?" Sturgill Simpson.
Never heard of him.
I know Nick is all in on
Yeah,
Sturgill Simpson.
I'm in.
Yeah,
Who
'cause
is that?
he's like kind of like a. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's like a Nick kind of country. That's all I can say.
Okay.
Cool. I like that description.
Yeah. Anybody else that Cole
Um,
Swindle or Swindle? Whatever
Not valid.
No.
Tyler Childers,
Valid.
valid. Tyler Childers, valid.
Chris Jansen.
Who?
The
Chris
Buy Me a
Jansen,
Boat
I've
song.
heard that.
What?
Buy Me a Boat. You don't know Buy Me a Boat?
No.
Oh my god.
Is it the? I'm not gonna sing it. Never mind.
Oh, this one I guarantee he's out, and this is the last one.
Okay.
And you're in.
Okay.
Kane Brown.
Out.
What?
Bye. Good night.
Garbage.
Goodbye, Patrick Mahomes wannabe. Gotta go.
What?
He looks like Patrick Mahomes
That's
to me.
pretty funny. Sam Hunt, by any chance? Anybody?
Nope.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Skinny jeans and country don't mix. Hello, Luke Bryan. Talking to you too.
But you like his music.
No, I don't.
I thought you liked it in the beginning.
Who said I like Luke
Oh,
Bryan?
Luke Bryan. I was thinking. Sorry.
No,
Zach
I
Bryan,
love
sorry.
Luke Combs.
All right. We're going to do that. That was called a waste of a segment. I apologize to the people, but I just.
That was
you know.
fun.
But see, I'm
Let
not
the
just
people
Bad
tell
Bunny
us.
and Ice Cube anymore, guys.
Don't just come up with an assumption. Let the people tell us if they liked that or not.
They don't.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm just going to assume that what people like and what they don't like. All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back with who do we got? We got Josh Snead coming up. And by the way, they're coming to town soon, SEC Short. So we'll do that here when we come back. But right now, we're talking about the Association of Former Students who have been around for over 140 years, and your financial gifts have empowered them to help out Aggies all around the globe. They want you to help continuing in that oldest, most inspiring tradition, which is Aggies helping Aggies. And that's what the Association of Former Students has been doing for such a long time. What they do is they help out with scholarships, student assistance programs, Aggie bands, silver taps, rain day, class reunions, muster, tailgate, traveling Aggies. They do so many different things, and you have really helped them do that. You're a big reason for what they do. And all the big events, from the Young Alumni event coming up to the traveling Aggies going to the Miami game to, opportunities to go work for them there at the Association of Former Students. They're looking to hire people. You want to relocate to College Station and Bryan, go check out the Association of Former Students and all their great jobs. It's the Association of Former Students doing amazing work for Aggies all over the place in that Aggie network. Go check it out. It's the Association of Former Students. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. One of my favorite things during football season is getting here on a Monday or Tuesday morning and Olin is next to me laughing hysterically as I'm prepping for the show. He's like, you got to come watch this SEC short. So good. And he does it in that accent as well. So we're going to talk to one of the creators of SEC Shorts, Josh Snead, joining us. And by the way, they're going to be here on Wednesday, September 20th at Rudder Theater. So hopefully we'll get them in studio when they're here for that. Let's go to the hotline. Josh is with us. Josh, good morning.
Hey, how's it going?
All right, man. Thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate you making some time.
Yeah, absolutely. So while I was on hold, I heard an ad for the Astros radio, like the broadcast, and it took me back to being a kid because I grew up in Houston, and I loved the Astros. Like, knew every stat for every player, and then I moved away and I stopped following them, and now they win the World Series every year. So that's what it's like to be a sports fan, I guess.
Well, you do have Alabama going for you, so you do have that. Let me ask you, like, where did you grow up in Houston? Because I'm from the Houston area. A lot of our listeners are. What part of Houston were you in, and when did you leave?
Let's see. I was supposed to. I think the Cy-Fair area.
Okay.
And I left in '92.
Okay. So right before the Rockets won championships too.
Yes. I remember, of course, everybody remembers watching the Rockets championship because that was the OJ chase, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
One of them. Yeah. But, yeah, as soon as I left, yeah, oh, man, just started winning World Series. Anyway.
Hey, Josh, so talk to me a little bit about coming to College Station and, because I know you've taken this show on the road before. Just how did that part of it all become part of what you all do?
Yeah. So just in the last couple of years, we started doing live shows, and it's something we always thought, oh, that would be fun to do because, when you make videos on the internet, you don't really have a lot of interaction with your fans unless it's in the comment section. And I mean, you try to stay away from the comment section as much as you can, to be honest. So it's nice to have like a live interaction with the fans and get to meet them, and you get the immediate response from them as you're doing a sketch or whatever it is that we're doing on stage. So, we came with this idea like, well, how about anyone who wins a championship will go in the spring, and that's kind of turned into doing like corporate stuff all over the South. And then we've done a couple Athens shows. We did one in Birmingham last fall before the Iron Bowl. So it's really fun. It's like a big variety show basically where it's sketches, stand up, audience games where we bring people up to play trivia or do improv or play charades, stuff like that. Hannah sings a song. There's all kinds of. It's just a little bit of everything.
So how did SEC Shorts as a thing become a thing? Like, was it just you and your buddy Robert just kind of creating on the side and it kind of blew up? And how did it all come together, I guess, a better way of phrasing?
Yeah, so the year that Kick Six went down in the Iron Bowl, we made a video like the next day, just because we thought it was funny. We just still post to our own social media. And it was announcers for the game didn't know that you could return a missed field goal for a touchdown. So they immediately just start talking about overtime while you see the guy, return it for a touchdown, and the field is like flooded with fans, and the announcers are just like, God, get these fans off the field. We got to get ready for overtime. And it kind of went viral. And we're like, oh God, that was fun, And about that time, Feinbaum got his show on SEC Network, and he was letting fans send in like rants, and people were just, filming themselves on their cell phones, like screaming about whatever team they hate. And we thought, well, if we do like a polished sketch, maybe we have a better chance of like getting on TV. So we did that, sent it in, and they liked it, and they asked us to do one every week. So we did that for like a whole season. And then at the end of the season, we had some offers, people to like, to pay us to do it. And so then we just started doing it as a job.
That's so cool and how it all came together. Is there a fan base that's easier to target than others?
Yeah, so for the longest time, it was Tennessee. Tennessee fans were more than happy to be made fun of because they were like, well, we deserve it. And then last year, when they were doing well, they expected like more from us to more praise. So they were like, listen, we put up with 8 years of you making fun of us. We would like you to praise us a little more. So I kind of understand that. But yeah, they have been the best sports about it. I'd say the worst sports are Auburn fans, unfortunately. They don't seem to have a very good sense of humor when they're not doing well. So.
Talking to Josh Sneed here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's talk a little bit about the Manziel era and what it could have looked like with what you all were doing. I'm not asking you to do a bit here with us, but just could you imagine doing your thing during that time with all the stuff we learned about Johnny?
Yeah. Oh man. I just watched that documentary the other night, and I was like, man, did we miss out on a time. Yeah, just like, oh man, just him going out, showing up hungover, never doing any game study. Oh man, there would have been so many opportunities to work with there. Oh man, so many things. Autograph signings. Oh man, I hate we missed out on it.
Well, I know that you guys kind of sometimes go back and revisit those, though, like different eras of SEC football.
Yeah, so that's usually in the off season, or at least a couple years, we've gone back and been like in the 90s, or in like this year we did 07 because it was such a crazy year. But yeah, I think maybe for the live show, we started writing that recently, so we definitely want to put something in about the Manziel years. Being an Alabama fan, that game, watching the documentary, gave me some bad memories because I was at that game his freshman year in Tuscaloosa, and that was my first introduction to like A&M fans in like a game setting. Growing up in Houston, I was an A&M fan, but I never went to the games. It wasn't a real big part of it because my family was from Alabama and they were all Auburn fans. So that game was my first real like interaction with A&M fans. And so it was pretty funny because you hear all the traditions and stuff that A&M fans have, and we're reciting them back to each other like the rumors we heard, and like they've got it's just all male cheerleaders. We didn't know to call them yell leaders, and we didn't. And they were like, yeah, I think they all kiss each other after they score touchdowns. Meanwhile, there's a whole family of A&M fans just sitting right in front of us, and we're talking about them like they are not there because that's what Alabama fans do. But I just remember that game and them going up on us on that third touchdown. The dad, when he leaned over to get that to kiss his wife, he looked back at us like, yeah, this is happening. It's like, great.
Josh, when you watch sports, like, are you watching it in the moment through a comedic lens, or does that come later? Are you writing bits out as you're watching things happen? Like, how does that whole creative process kind of happen?
Yeah, so we kind of bounce around to all the big SEC games on Saturdays. We try to watch a little bit of all the big games that we think people will be talking about on Monday. And then, we just kind of wait to see what happens. And then once we decide what game it's going to be and the angle we want to take, then we start trying to figure out a premise. And then we'll start kicking jokes around. And then we'll be on Sunday to really decide exactly what we're going to do. And then from there, that's when we just cut loose, and Robert will start working on a script, and then I'll start trying to find a location, getting actors together. Then we work on props, and then we gotta shoot it and then edit it. It's the whole thing.
So how long does that take? Because I feel like it's early in the week that I see it, right? Like, is it a pretty quick turnaround?
Yeah, so games are Saturday. We work all day Sunday, and it goes up Monday morning at 8 o'clock. So we have about 15 hours to come up with an idea and completely film it, execute it, edit it, all that good stuff.
So do you, and I mean this with all due respect, but you guys do a lot of comedy, but do you also have like sports takes, or are your sports takes, I guess, formulated because, your comedy is formulated because of your sports takes?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I guess our sports takes can inform our comedy, but I don't know. We try to look at it. We've been doing it for almost 10 years, and we try to look at it from a pretty like neutral perspective. And we just kind of want to do what we think is funny. So we don't there aren't any teams we stay away from. There aren't any people we're like looking to go after, and we usually don't have to go after specific individuals unless it's Lane Kiffin, because he has a pretty good sense of humor about it. But yeah, we kind of just wait to see what happens and just do what we think is funny.
I read on your website you guys would not consider doing other conferences. It's like you're ride or die with the SEC, right?
Yeah, people like investors or people at bars will come up to us and be like, you guys should do the Big Ten shorts. Like, we've never thought of it or heard of it before. And we spend all day Sunday making an SEC video because we spent all day Saturday watching SEC games. So we wouldn't be able to watch all the Big Ten games, all the SEC games, make an SEC video and a Big Ten video by Monday morning to have it up. And then if you wait further into the week, people have already kind of moved on to the week coming up. So it'd be hard to do. If we franchise it out, we could do that. But there aren't a ton of people with this kind of experience. It's weird. You have to have a cross section of acting, writing, filmmaking, and you also have to just really love college football. So it's kind of a weird combination of things to have. So I don't know. Maybe when we're ready to quit, we'll franchise it out and then just leave and then just see what happens.
Hey, I'd love to get you guys in studio when you're in town. We'll try to coordinate something if it's possible. We'd love to get you guys here and get to know more of the story of the whole crew.
Yeah, we'd love to come by. I think we're going to come. We're actually getting into town Monday or Tuesday. The show's Wednesday, and then we have some sort of dinner at the library on Thursday. We're hoping to maybe add another show because I think the tickets are pretty close to being sold out already for the Wednesday show. So we may end up adding another one, but that's not for sure yet or anything. So we'll see what happens. But if people are interested in going to the show, it's tx.ag/SEC shorts. Right. And the tickets are $12.
We'll make sure we put that on the site. Anything TexAgs can do to help you out, you let us know. We'd love to get you back in here soon, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have always been great, and we're big fans of you guys as well.
I appreciate your time, man. We'll talk to you very soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Josh Nee there, SEC Shorts co-creator. Appreciate his time here on the program. We'll definitely go check out that show when they're in town. Let's hit a break here. We'll come back with an open segment, and it won't be about country music. It'll be about football. Right now, though, we're talking Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. If you've purchased a vehicle from Caldwell Country Chevrolet, you are aware of the extreme customer service, the pricing, all that good stuff. If you have not, what are you doing, guys? I'm not saying to go buy a car right now, but when you are ready to buy a car, let your search begin at CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. You start there, and then you go through the whole process. And look, I'm telling you, the ease of it all was so good for our family about a year ago. The inventory is fantastic there when you go to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. The customer service on a different level. The trade-in value you'll get for your current vehicle out of this world as well. So many advantages to going to Caldwell Country Chevrolet. It is not a far drive either. 15 minutes, Brauninger, Caldwell, a short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with our friends there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online. Caldwell, I got really loud there, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. All right, a little oasis for you, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go our reversal today. It's going to be at 10 o'clock. A lot of hand movements going on. We'll have OB with us there. A lot of responses to the interview there with Josh Sneed. A lot of guys on the YouTube page really enjoying that. And I know it's a huge hit with SEC fans everywhere. I'm telling you, I'm not making that story up. OB always shows them to me. Because usually on Monday, I guess it's Monday mornings, I'm cranking away on the show. And he's like, did you see this? And he'll always point it out to me. It's always good stuff there. Let's go to the News and Social Center, which is going to be sponsored here any moment now by the Angry Elephant, as they're going to be our sponsor of the News and Social Center. Kennedy Cavan, please don't be angry.
Well, I'm not angry.
I know, I just was playing off the word angry.
Oh, yeah,
elephant.
No, never angry.
I'm never angry anymore either. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yeah, no, you're so happy now.
It's been at least.
Is it because of your kickboxing classes?
I would say the kickboxing and the jiu-jitsu with my friends there at BVMMA has made me a nicer person because now that I am a trained killer, legit, like in the 6 weeks I've been taking it, a trained killer. I don't want to be able to do that until I run into anybody who has any skills.
Unless
that
like
me.
absolutely necessary.
No, like there's always an option, Miss Cavan.
Okay.
Always an option.
That's fine.
All right. What is happening with volleyball?
Last night I'm a part of the team. They had their maroon and white scrimmage. Sorry, Nick, my phone just went off. Maroon and white scrimmage, and I was very impressed by the team. Coach Morrison seems to have a pretty impressive roster on his hands. I'm excited for the season. They play an exhibition match on Saturday against Baylor, and then they're on the road for a couple of weeks at a couple different tournaments, and then the Aggie Land tournament, I don't know exactly what the name of it is called, it'll come back, I think, in September.
Fairly sure he'll be a regular guest starting in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I hope so. He's great. He spoke to us yesterday after the scrimmage, and I love listening to him because he's so knowledgeable about the game, and he just knows what he's talking about. I love it.
Absolutely does.
Oh, yeah. Obviously, he just won a medal at World Championships, so.
And by the way, soccer really gets started tomorrow against Florida State, so I'm looking forward to that as well. All right, we'll hit a break here. The Go Hour coming up next at 10 a.m. on TexAgs Radio. My timing is all off because usually I feel like I should do an introduction and say hello to the people, and maybe I'll still do that because I really haven't talked to Nick or Kevin that much, but we're doing the Go Hour here during the 10 o'clock hour. Welcome into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the 10 o'clock Go Hour, presented by the warehouse at CC Creations. Maroon never looks so good with Maroon You. Olin Buchanan with us, as he always is. You get to sleep in a little more, or you're probably still awake at the gym early in the morning?
Well, I wish I would sleep. I would have slept in. I don't even need an alarm clock. I'm going to wake up between 5 and 6 every day.
And what time do you go to bed?
Well, it depends. Last night.
11.
Last night was about 10:30.
Okay.
I stayed up. Actually, I stayed up and watched the Rangers.
They've won again.
They did.
They don't know how to lose. They and the Dodgers are winning a lot.
I wouldn't say that.
I'm just going to say it until it happens.
But, yeah, they actually won. So, with me watching them, because, I gave up on them, and then they started winning again.
Right.
And then I watched a little bit the other day, and they blew a lead against the Giants. And I said, why am I watching? And then last night I decided to watch, and they won.
They keep winning. They do keep winning. OB, I have a topic for us to start the show off with because a lot was made about the rankings, and maybe we're the ones who made a lot of it, but just whatever. So it got me thinking, let's have a sports talk segment here where we talk about teams that are not ranked, that will be ranked, and then teams that are currently ranked that won't be ranked. The A&Ms of 2022 of the world, right?
Yeah, somebody's always going to be a big disappointment.
So I came up with a couple names. I don't know if you have any, and if you want me to start, if you want to start, but however you want to go about it.
It doesn't matter.
Okay. Let's start off with teams that are currently not ranked that I think will be ranked, okay?
Okay.
And one team that I think will be ranked when it's all said and done is Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech was ranked 25th in the coaches poll. They were not in the AP poll, so this is maybe not a fair one to use. But for today's purposes, I think they are a team that I'm hoping takes care of business against Texas, right? I'm rooting for them there. They are a team that won 8 games last year. I think they have a dynamic offense where they threw for 461. They accounted for 461 yards per game. They scored almost 35 points a game. Their quarterback is really, really good. They bring back 14 starters. They're a team that a very young coach who's probably, if he has a great year, moves on from Texas Tech somewhere else. Sorry to say that, but up and coming guy. There's a lot of optimism around that program, and a team that I think will be ranked when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. I got to admit, I don't pay that close of attention to the Big 12. I would assume that they're going to be upper division team in the Big 12.
Yep.
So, yeah, I can see that.
I could absolutely see them being there. I'm gonna give you one more, and then if you want to give me, and I may have another one, but another one for you. Kentucky.
Yeah, so that was one I was. I've been kind of high on Kentucky all off season, right? First of all, I believe in Mark Stoops as a coach. I like their
They're
physical.
similar to A&M in a way, like not the same talent, but just the way they go about their business.
Well, they're very physical.
Yeah.
And I think that they struggled on their offensive line last year, and I think it'll be better. They got their new offensive coordinators, their old offensive coordinator,
who was really good.
They got a guy who's been a successful quarterback in the ACC. That doesn't mean he'll be successful in the SEC, but based on performance at the major college level, he would project to be one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. I think Kentucky's kind of like, if you're going to look at the Big 12, they're kind of like Kansas State, a team that you forget about, but very often they turn out to be better than you think.
So their defense last year only gave up 19 points a game. That just shows you how bad their offense was, right?
Their offense was terrible.
Their offense was bad because of the offensive line. But Devin Leary, people forget, in 2021, he threw for 35 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. I read an article about him just about a month ago where it talked about how he is labeled as injury prone, but the 2 injuries he's had were major, like a broken leg. Like, that's not like something your strength and conditioning staff can fix.
It's just bad luck.
And a torn pec, okay? So those are the 2 injuries he's had. That is not somebody who's necessarily injury prone. I mean, yes, he's been injured a couple times, so, the full definition, sure. But when I think of injury prone, somebody who continues to, like, tear his hamstring or is always on the mend.
Always got an ankle problem.
Right. I don't think of him that way.
Something else.
If he's going to be an NFL quarterback, he's got to survive this season, and he's got to put up some similar numbers to what he did in 2021. The fact that he's done it, but now he's going to have to do it in the SEC. At least he's going to do it in the East, which is not that challenging compared to what I think the West is outside of Georgia. And we'll see if Tennessee is who they should be. And I've told you a couple of different times, I'm a big believer. Like I did last year with Hendon Hooker, there's people I picked that I like. I think Ray Davis is going to be a stud there at Kentucky.
He might be. If he's at Kentucky, what he was at Vanderbilt, that's fine, right? I just think that they're going to be a better football team all the way around, and I think the East is still pretty soft outside of Georgia, of course.
Yep.
And they do have a lot of experience back. So Kentucky in the under Stoops has been good more often than not. So I look at that last year as being maybe the dip in the. We've talked about if you're an elite program, and they're not. But if you're an elite program, you win 10, 10, 10. Oh, had that 8 games. Well, for them, maybe you win 8 or 9 and sometimes 10, and then you're going to have that dip, and it may be 5 wins. And I think that's kind of what was going on at Kentucky last year.
OB, I think I'm going to throw in a couple more for you. Because here's one that I'm torn about. Arkansas. They're not currently ranked in the AP. Are they going to be the exact team that they were last year, a 7-6 team falling out of the top 25? Potentially. But they do have, if not the best quarterback in the SEC, one of the top 2 or 3, right? If he takes a step in the right direction, continues to grow as he's done his first couple years, could they be a team that is not in the top 25 that you could see in the top 25 at the end of the year?
Well, yeah, I could see them maybe at the bottom of the top 25. I look at Arkansas, and I think they're going to be pretty much the same team. Really good quarterback, really good running back. I don't know if any of their receivers get your attention. Their offensive line will be good because of Sam Pittman as an offensive line coach by trade. But you cannot convince me that you lose Ricky Stromberg at center and get better.
Right.
I know they feel like Bo Limmer is going to step in and be just as good. Okay, well, is the guy replacing Bo Limmer at guard going to be just as good as he was? I just don't see that. And their defense was absolutely atrocious against the pass last year, and that was with a really good pass rush.
Right.
So, are you going to take Drew Sanders out, and some of the guys who were starters last year? Maybe it's addition by subtraction, but like Miles Slusher moved on. Why? I would need to talk to somebody from Arkansas, and they would have to convince me why Arkansas is going to be better on defense than they were last year without Drew Sanders and Bumper Pool and Miles Slusher and some of the other guys they lost.
Yeah, I agree. If you guys have somebody that you think will be in the top 25, you can do that on the text line 979-693-1150 if we've forgotten about somebody or somebody we're not thinking about. And also teams that will fall out and get into the top 25. We just did get into the top 25. Couple, do you have any more that you want to throw in there?
I may be it seems like I'm the only guy that believes in them, but Mississippi State.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one I can understand.
They are the most experienced team coming back. They weren't bad last year. They got an experienced quarterback. Yes, Mike Leach isn't there anymore, and that's a good reason to be concerned. And they lost. Thankfully, A&M would say this, Emmanuel Forbes, the cornerback, moved on. You know, he scored as a cornerback in the last 3 seasons, scored 2 touchdowns against A&M. But all that experience from a decent team with their quarterback coming back, they always seem to find receivers, even though they did lose their best ones. I just could see them being a team that, again, shows up at the between 25 and 20.
Yeah, I could see that. Falling out of the top 25, I'm going to throw one to you that it's kind of like Arkansas where I'm torn. I could go either way on this one, but I'm going to give you my reasons why I think they may fall out of the top 25. Okay. Ole Miss. And my thinking for it is, look what they did last year in SEC play. Outside of A&M, they weren't very good, right? They started off hot, and they fell out of it. Now, they got a great ground game. We know that about them. They're probably going to have a pretty good offense. That's what Lane Kiffin does. It'll be interesting to see how their defense responds. But if they're anything like what I've seen the last couple of years where they've struggled in SEC play, I could see them easily falling out when it's all said and done.
Yeah. In fact, I would expect them to. You pointed out, I think it was last year they beat one team that had a winning record.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they beat like 5 teams that were 5-7, A&M being one of them.
Right.
And Kentucky being one of them. And it wasn't like they were blowing out most of those teams.
They're all
either.
games, yeah.
So yeah, I could see that. In fact, like I said, I was kind of even expect it.
Here's one that I could see happening, and I don't want our TCU audience to get upset with me because I know we have some. But why not TCU? And a couple of the reasons. They lose not only their quarterback, but a ton of production, right? They also, I think they're ranked, there it is, 18th nationally in returning production. They lose Garrett Riley, who goes to Clemson, right? So, like, those reasons alone. Also, how lucky, and that's all those games that A&M lost that were one-score games, TCU was the reverse of that. They won them, right? They went 6-1 in one-score games.
And some of those in real bizarre
fashion, right?
That only happens like once in your life.
So, and 9 of the 13 wins came by 10 points or fewer. So, completely different team. They're not the same team coming back. I think they were 15th, if I remember correctly. They're in the top 25, obviously. I think 15th or 16th. But they're a team that I don't think they're good.
17 on the AP poll.
17, there you go. I just can't see them continuing at that clip with all the changes.
I agree more than anything because of the way they won last year. And so much of that was, what's the kid's name? Max?
Duggan.
So much of that was just the grit, determination of that guy, right? And the next guy isn't going to be as good as the last guy.
Well, I've heard he's better as a quarterback, but does he have that winning DNA, if you will?
Yeah, I would question. They may say, he's got a better arm, or he looks better in the pocket, whatever. That's not
Chandler Morris.
He's not. Chad's dad. Chad's son. He's not going to be better than Max Duggan. I'll say it right now. He's not. And I think he'll be better as a quarterback than his dad was as a coach. But the bar's kind of low there. Yeah. Look, I'm not saying he can't be good and he won't be good. I'm just saying he's not going to be as good as Max Duggan. And then didn't they have a first-round draft choice at receiver?
Yeah.
Right? And then when you take that guy off the field and when you think about how they won so many of those games in just the most bizarre fashion. Now, they're still in the Big 12, and it's not a treacherous league. So, maybe they'll have a good year. But I just can't see that team getting the same magic that they had last year, especially without Max Duggan.
I'm going to sound like a hypocrite here, but one of the teams I'm going to throw as a maybe in this scenario is a team that I spoke about 2 days ago. CBS had these projections of Jerry Palm had these projections of who A&M would play, and they had them playing in the Tampa Bowl, which they changed the name. It escapes me, but Iowa. Okay, and I feel like A&M and Iowa always come up in these projections, but Iowa's a team. They get J.J. McCarthy as their quarterback, and I think that'll make a difference for them. Offensively, they were horrendous last year. But Iowa's a team that I have not studied enough, other than I know they've upgraded their quarterback. Their offense can't be as bad. Could they potentially fall out?
Well, they're starting at 25.
Right.
So
yeah. It's not that hard.
Right. The team that I would say, and I've said it all year long.
I think I know where you're going
is
with
Tennessee.
it. Okay.
Again, I don't think they're going to be bad, but let's say they go 8-4. Is that a top 25 team?
Depends on the year. No,
probably not. So
9-3 is
maybe.
Yeah,
depends on how other teams are doing. But let's say they lose to A&M and Alabama and Georgia. I think all three of those are very, if not likely, possible. Yeah. They may be favored today over A&M in Knoxville, but that means you can only trip up one more time. And again, that's not Hendon Hooker, and it's not Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman and the kid named Green, who was the tackle, and Byron Young, their best defensive player last year. So all those guys are gone.
So I'm going to throw one out at you that I think they're going to be better. I think they're going to be better than they were last year.
Okay.
But I would not be surprised if they're not good enough for the top 25, and I guess we'll find out real soon. Oklahoma. Okay?
Yeah, I want to say, why is Oklahoma going to be better?
I just think talent in the Big 12 sucks.
So we're going by name there.
Yeah, we're going by name.
Did they not have 3 or 4 players taken in the draft?
Yeah. I think they did pretty well in the transfer portal. But I'm gonna kind of read you their schedule.
All
Arkansas State, win.
Mm-hmm.
SMU.
Probably a win.
Okay. At Tulsa.
Should be a win.
At Cincinnati. That's a TBD.
Yeah, TBD.
Okay. Iowa State.
Probably a win.
Okay, so maybe.
Probably.
Texas. Probably a loss.
Probably a loss.
They got destroyed last year. UCF.
I don't know what
TBD.
UCF TBD.
Yeah. At Kansas. I think
big,
Kansas.
Big game for Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
At
his old
Kansas.
team. At Kansas. That could be a loss.
It's a win because I'm always taking whoever goes against Kansas.
Kansas got the quarterback. They
do. I'll take them over Kansas.
I'll take them over Oklahoma State.
It's a rival game.
But they've lost Spencer Sanders.
I know.
They've lost yet. So and the Oklahoma State floundered. Speaking of floundering, they
but again,
floundered.
Oklahoma.
Well, true. Okay, so maybe 6 wins
it's
there.
Not J.C. Watts and Billy Sims and guys like that out there.
West Virginia.
Yeah, probably so. I think West Virginia's a mess right now.
At BYU.
I would be inclined to take BYU.
Okay, and then TCU, TBD.
TBD.
So that's 7-8 wins. So that's in the Big 12. I don't think 7-8 wins is a top 20. In fact, I know it's not a top 25 team.
Well,
right?
7's not for sure.
Right.
And 8 probably isn't. But I'm just saying, when I look at Oklahoma, I'm saying, okay, why are they going to be so much better? Yeah.
I haven't studied them enough but I do know that they did pretty well in the portal. They did very good recruiting, or not very good, but well recruiting. So there's reasons to see that they'll be better than last year's second year of the system, just like, so there's, I know why David Edmonds probably going to text in a moment. Like he knows what they're thinking. Right?
Tell me why.
Yeah.
I don't believe in Brent Venables as a head coach, by the way.
I don't either. I don't.
Good defensive coordinator. I think he's a Will Muschamp type of guy.
I think he lost his fastball as a defensive coordinator as well.
I don't know. I think if he's a defensive coordinator he can do that job, but I just question him as a head coach.
Yeah. By the way, there was a headline that I came across this morning, which shouldn't surprise us, but Anaya Smith makes ESPN's college football top 100 players for 2023.
He should.
I think it was in the 60s. If I remember correctly.
He should. How many times does he have to go off against Alabama before people notice him, right? And it's not just Alabama, but that's the high-profile game. He has scored 4 touchdowns in the last 2 games he's played against Alabama.
Ag Engineering 12 says, got to include the bowl games on these final rankings. A 9-4 SEC team gets ranked, an 8-5 team does not. The issue with the OU is their schedule. It is a joke, so they're going to end up ranked. OU will be better if their QB stays healthy. That's Ag Engineering 12.
Okay.
So there's some reasons there to believe that. And Chase in Houston, who does keep up with everything college football, OU looked out with Iowa State and Cincinnati being the worst 2 teams in the Big 12 this year.
So I got to admit, I don't know a lot about what to expect from Cincinnati.
I don't either. Yeah.
But that would be a Big 12 thing, is to make a big deal out of bringing in a team that's been a championship contender the last couple of years.
Playoff.
And when they come into the Big 12, they're terrible.
Yeah. All right, let's hit a break. Opie, one thing that I had to do today, there was something I had to do.
What'd you have to do?
I thought to myself, look, when I talk about Fargo's, I got to do it with Olin, because it's like, I don't know, there's like a...
So it's my home away from home?
Well, not only that, but like, it's like Desi Arnaz and Lucy, like that. Well, maybe that's not the right comparison.
Yeah,
but
I think I'd have to be Lucy in this scenario.
I'm definitely Desi, yeah. You know what I'm saying? But like, I feel like it's like we talk about it together.
You've got some explaining to do.
I do got some explaining to do. But I feel like that's like our thing. And then in the 8 o'clock hour, I had Bronny in there. I'm like, I'm not going to talk barbecue with Bronny, although I'd invite him to go eat there.
Bronny could probably put away a lot of barbecue.
Brontosaurus burger, for sure.
At Fargo's. Of course, anybody could. Even if you eat like a bird, you would go to Fargo's. It's so good that bird becomes a condor.
It does become
because you just it's so good. And today is a Wednesday, so like if you want to take my word on that chopped beef,
just do it
and put it on a baked potato, and then you can thank me later.
Or you could also do the old switcheroo and get the beef ribs.
Oh yeah, sure.
You can do the beef ribs.
Who doesn't love beef ribs?
Who doesn't, right? Like, it's so good.
You know who doesn't?
Who?
Cubans. You know why? Because they can't eat beef. They're not allowed to eat beef in Cuba. So.
Well, those there.
Yeah,
the Cubans here. We love the ribs.
If you came over from Cuba, you would go straight to Fargo's and get those beef ribs.
They may land in Miami or end up in Miami, but they'll make that trek over to Fargo's in College Station, right? Or in Bryan, I should say.
Yeah, they'll go far for Fargo's.
They'll go far for Fargo's. They've been around for a long time, 22 years, football weekends, office parties, anniversaries, weddings, dinners. They can cater. They can do it the right way. It is Fargo's, 1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan, without a doubt.
The best barbecue in the world, and that includes Cuba.
That does include Cuba, believe it or not. Their trademark, it's because it's
true.
It's Fargo's. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. The reverse go hour going on right now. That is brought to you by Maroon U. Maroon never looks so good with Maroon U. OB, got a couple text messages on our last topic that I want to get into. But before that, I'll read, we'll do 23 and 23. So before that, we'll do these text messages. So Ron and Irving says, I listen to The Animal every day. They have OU going 10-2.
I wonder what they had them going last year.
Probably 10-2.
Probably. Look, what they finished last year, by the way?
6 wins.
6 wins?
Yeah.
And they had 5 players taken in the draft, including a first-round draft choice of tackle. Both their offensive tackles got drafted. And Marvin Mims, wasn't he their best big play threat?
Yep.
Best offensive player?
Gone.
And he's gone. So you're going to be better without those guys. I know Alabama and Georgia can lose guys like that and be better, but when you lose those guys off a 6-win team, do you get better?
I don't think typically you do. Again, I don't know what's in the pipeline, but I don't think you do.
I know they've been all upset up there when they lose defensive players to A&M.
So here's one from Peru and College Station. SMU will beat OU in Norman. OU's defense is a train wreck.
Yeah, it may be, but and I hope that's true. I just wonder, since the guy's name is Peruna, is this guy an SMU fan?
He always texts the show. He's an Aggie.
But does he have any SMU ties with the name Peruna, and does that cloud his thinking? I wonder.
I wonder too.
You know what Peruna, right?
No, I don't. I'm just pretending.
Isn't Peruna the name of their Mustang mascot?
Oh, is that right?
They used to run the little horse across and I think that's Peruna.
I was just acting like I knew. I don't know. Peruna Mustang is the official mascot fight song of the SMU. Look at you, OP.
Well, I've been doing this a while.
You have been doing this a while.
And you know what? That horse has never has never died in a game like the one at Texas Tech did.
Oh, yeah.
You know about that, right?
Yeah, I do know that one, yeah.
So that horse is
A horse is a horse, of course.
of course.
And nobody talks to a horse, of course.
Mr. Ed.
Unless they're Mr. Ed.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Something like that. It's been a while since I saw that.
Wilbur? Was that the
Wilbur,
guy?
yeah. Wilbur.
That guy was a winner.
But I had a talking horse.
Yeah.
If he knew how to market that, he could have been.
Dude, you could have been great. Like, that was Alexa before Alexa was a horse. Mr. Ed.
So I don't know if Oklahoma had the stud horses to be significantly better than they were last year. Maybe they will, but I just, when you lose both your starting tackles, and one's a first-round draft choice, and then Marvin Mims, who is your best big play guy, and we take Peruna's word for it, their defense is problematic. Why are they going to be a lot better?
Hey, let's do 23 and 23,
Let's do it.
shall we? Because we got Sean Salisbury coming on the show here in a moment. 23 and 23, presented by The Charge Apparel, Aggie-owned and operated premier polos and tees made in the USA. 12% of total sales donated to organizations supporting veterans and mental health initiatives. You can visit them at thechargeapparel.com or find them on Instagram at The Charge Apparel or on Twitter, The Charge Brand. Number 8 on the 23 and 23, Tyreek Chappelle.
Yeah.
OB, I'll set it up with this. I think Tyreek Chappelle is an example of why people should be excited about the youth, the growth of the youth at Texas A&M, because he was thrown into the fire as a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
I believe is when Miles Jones went down. He went in there, and if you remember, I know you will because you have a better memory than I do, they started to target him a lot in the beginning when he first was out there. Like, this young freshman, let's start throwing at him.
Okay.
That ended up being an asset for him because he grew in the role. And now he's entering year 3 as the guy. He's an example of what experience can do, and which is why I believe he, in a kind of a thin area that we have some unknowns, is the most known there at the cornerback.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think he's proven himself. He's broke up 17 passes in 2 seasons. Now, I'd like to see more interceptions, and I'm sure he would too.
Mm-hmm.
But the first order of business is make sure a pass in your direction is not completed.
Yep.
And he's done a heck of a job with that. He had 9 that freshman year when people were targeting, and he had 8 last year. So, yeah, I mean, you got to have good corners. And Tyreek Chappelle is a proven guy. He's one guy, and he's proven at A&M. And quite frankly, when he got thrust into the starting lineup as a freshman,
He played well.
He was better than some of the guys
Yeah.
that were in front. He just played better than them. I know it's because Miles Jones was hurt, but Brian George,
Yeah.
you know, I thought the defense got better with Tyreek Chappelle in there.
They did get better with him out there, and this is a big year for him. Like, whatever aspirations he may have, this is a very, very big year. And I had forgotten this, OB. He didn't play in the Alabama game.
It's true. Yeah, he was out.
And look,
Could have used him.
could have. I mean, your best corner absolutely could have used him against Alabama. Now I know Jalen Milroe wasn't throwing.
He threw 3 touchdown
but
passes. in that
threw,
game.
but exactly that. Like, you don't think of him as that. You think about the runs that he was
Right.
doing. But I mean, maybe he's out there that they don't get one of those touchdowns.
All I know is when you're playing anybody, but especially a team like Alabama, and especially on the road, I want my very best team I can out there.
Yeah.
Maybe if he makes a difference on one play, maybe that makes a difference in the outcome. Look, and let's tell you something else about Tyreek Chappelle. He's not afraid. I like this about him. He's not the biggest guy, but he had 44 tackles last year, and I guarantee you not all of them were, as a receiver downfield. In fact, I think he had a couple tackles for loss.
He had 2.5 tackles for loss.
Yeah, so I mean, he's not the biggest guy, but he's not like a Deion Sanders cornerback that only wants to cover and doesn't want to tackle. I mean, he'll put his head in there.
I am interested to see his numbers this year if A&M does a better job stopping the run, because they could look even better because they're going to throw more, and then he's going to get an opportunity to defend more passes, or he could be put on an island. So the fact that they were so poor at stopping the run last year, I think obviously limited some passing against them.
Again, I think that secondary, when you consider that, like you just said, A&M had trouble stopping the run, and then on top of that, they couldn't rush the passer.
Mm-hmm.
That secondary did a heck of a job overall. I know they didn't, teams out, they led the nation in in pass defense because everybody wanted to run on him. Well, there's a lot of truth to that. But still, when you have no pass rush and your teams, you have to react to the run. So you're susceptible to play action pass and still do the job they did. And Tyreek Chappelle was a big part of that.
When we come back on TexAgs Radio, Sean Salisbury, he's on 790 in Houston, but former quarterback, used to be a quarterback at the Houston Oilers and Minnesota Vikings, several other stops. We'll chit-chat with him about quarterbacks in the SEC and just maybe some NFL topics as well. Right now, we're talking Heritage Films. YourHeritageFilm.com is the website. Let's do a documentary on one of your loved ones, right? You may be thinking to yourself, why would we do a documentary on just Uncle Paul? Is that a good name, Uncle Paul? Uncle Paul. He's a good guy. Or you know what? Cousin Shane. Well, whoever it may be, do a documentary on. You may be thinking, why would I do that? Well, it's not just for the moment. It's for the future, right? To remember the past. It's for the future to remember the past. We did one with my dad. It was such a cool experience to hear his story. I'd heard it 100 times. I couldn't recite it because I have no recall at all, but I had heard those stories, and then when I verbalized it to my kids, I get some of those parts of it right. My dad would tell them, now it's on video. It's something that no matter what, we can go back and watch every moment of it and enjoy his story. It's such a cool thing to do. We also did a similar thing with my daughter Annalise it's called a Year Flicks. It's for the younger kids. It's more of a benchmark video, getting to know them at a certain age. So imagine 20 years from now when we're like, let's watch that Annalise video when she was 12. Look how cute she was and what she was into and this and that. Those are all the cool things you can do with Heritage Films under the umbrella of Year Flicks. The website, yourheritagefilm.com. Yourheritagefilm.com, 713-893-8341. 713-893-8341. Excited about our next guest. Welcome back, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. So, OB, this next guest, I've been friends with him for about 15, 16 years. When I used to do radio at the old place, he was a regular go-to guy, responded to all my emails. He was fresh off of ESPN and just was always so accommodating. I go to the TV station, accommodating. I call him here to come join us on TexAgs. Always gives me some good insight. So let's go to the hotline.
I'm old enough to have seen him play on TV for USC.
Oh, yeah? I am too, buddy. I am too. Let's go to the hotline. We're joined by Sean Salisbury here on TexAgs. Sean, good morning.
Good morning, and I'm old enough to feel the pain of playing all those years, too. So it's good to be on. Thank you for the intro, and always appreciate coming on where I just got my master's degree in December from A&M and where my kids went to school. So great to be on with you guys. Thank you. It's fun. I can't wait till football starts.
Man, we can't wait either. So, look, I know you can talk about any sport, Astros, Texans, college football. I know how you roll. I thought I'd focus a little bit on quarterbacks, if you don't mind, and the one that I think that most people are asking about, at least here, Connor Wigman. I know you saw him play in high school. I know you've talked about him, about his college game. What do you see when you watch Connor play?
There's two guys, Dave, that stuck out to me last year going into the football season that were new. It's Cade Klubnik at Clemson and Connor Wegman. And I watched him play at Bridgeland in high school. And one of my guys who's Mabry Matoyer, who's at the Woodlands, and they had a huge matchup. This was in before Connor's senior season. And I went and watched him play at Bridgeland, and I knew about him as a hell of a recruit and a really good player. But I had to see it with my own eyes, and I train a guy who's a hell of a player too. First of all, he was on a real good offense, but what I noticed is the versatility to do it all. We're at a time when the days now, unless you're throwing it like Tom Brady from the pocket, we need you to do more. We need you as a quarterback to beat you from there with your feet and your arms, and then get out and extend plays, and then handle the football IQ, handle big crowds, be poised enough to do RPO, and then bootleg, and then throw from the pocket on the quick game, and then get out of the pocket, and then be off schedule and perform on schedule and lead. And I'm telling you, I walked away from that game knowing how talented the guy I had is and still have. And then watch Connor Wegman. And I told Bias this kid's going to be a star. And then, it goes up to A&M. And two guys that I felt that if the quarterbacks left their glove on the mound, they should have played sooner. And that was A&M and that was Clemson with Klubnik. And both of them are going to be monster talents. And Connor, I just love the way he handled everything that was dealt to him football-wise. They got him in there. And I've known Brad Johnson. I teammated his Max's dad for a long time. And I know Max can play. I think Connor Wegman's different. I think there's something different, and I don't know what the it factor is. We all want to put a stamp on, say, if this, then he's got that. There's something different about him, and I'm telling you, they would have had more success if he'd have played sooner. This will be the opportunity for Jimbo's offense and for Bobby Petrino to step it up. I am a huge Wegman fan. Plus, he's a versatile athlete. He's a baseball guy. I think you're in for it, not just physically, but I think the mental toughness of Connor Wegman is going to bear itself out and will bear fruit this fall.
Sean, I believe in the old cliche or the old football poem about Jimmy's and Joe's beat X's and O's. So would you think that A&M is going to be more successful offensively because of Connor or because of the, I guess, new offensive philosophies or new offensive approach of Bobby Petrino?
I think the perfect world is both. Now, to Bobby, real quick, when I was doing games for ESPN, college football games, I covered Bobby a couple times. Now, I know Bobby's had some stuff. Who hasn't? We've all trudged through some crap to get to it. Some of it self-inflicted to be successful. I'm okay with that. I can tell you this, just on the football sense, when I sat down and Bobby started drawing stuff on the board and we started talking football, make no mistake about it. Now, that'll be a fiery quarterback and meeting room with Bobby, and we know with DJ and with Jimbo, there's going to be some opinion, which is good. Not a lot of yes men, which I like, and Bobby won't be that. But I know this. When it comes to dialing up plays and calling them, Bobby Petrino knows offense and knows how to attack defense. So that's a good thing. But I'm with you. I know this, and I haven't been around great players. Great players can turn a bad play call into success. Average players can turn a great play call into failure. And I'm a Jimmy and Joe guy too. Now, if you get both, well, then you're doing what Alabama's done. You're doing what Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams are doing. Yeah, that's the great thing. But do I believe automatically with a starting quarterback that's just different, elevates your offense? No doubt. Now, letting Jimbo go back and be a head coach, let Bobby come in and does what he does best. And you know what? If Bobby's successful, he won't be a coordinator long. He'll be a head coach again somewhere else, and that's okay. But, yeah, I'm a Jimmy's and Joe's guys first because I'll put in my career. Sometimes I was really good, but there's sometimes the play was perfect. And if you're not throwing a curl route to an open coverage or leverage, then the X's and O's don't mean a hill of beans. But I know this, when guys believe in a guy under center and you know he's a playmaker, you can take what would you say, well, that's just an average play call and turn it into special. So I'll start there. Jimmy's and Joe's first, play caller and play second. But I also know this, if you got both, Texas A&M's offense will be far better than it was last year, as long as you're healthy and as long as people buy in. And I think that a lot of it is buy into the quarterback, and then the coach comes second.
All right, Sean. So with that, the offense hopefully taken care of, what's realistic for A&M this year? How do you see it playing out if Connor does become the guy that you expect?
Much better. Just look at LSU 2 years ago. Up and down. The only reason I say that, they went out and got a transfer and a new head coach, and Jaden Daniels comes in. And right now, now they're talented. A&M's talented too. Recruits. I know people transfer, come and go. That's all over the country in Power 5 schools. But think about what Jaden Daniels and Brian Kelly, but Jaden Daniels did now. Last year, at times, he didn't push the ball down the field. Now look at him, top 5 team. Kind of the way we went in thinking about A&M last year. But the quarterback now, he may be as dynamic a quarterback as there is in the conference. And now look where people hold them. They got some really good perimeter people, a good defense, and here we are. Well, now can you stop the run if you're A&M? Let's make no mistake about it. My team at SC went through this. Score 40, give up 44, you don't win, even with the best player in America. They better stop the run, and they better be physical at the point of attack, because quarterback can take you so far, but if you got to score 40 a week in the SEC, you are hosed with the Georgias and the LSUs and the Bamas and even teams of Floridas and Ole Miss and Mississippi State. They'll be all up and down on both sides of the division. So for me, I expect a far better team. Now, I don't know if that means 9 wins, 10 wins. I think the expectations going in are lower nationally because of what we saw last year. But I don't care about last year now. I care that they improve on it, and the quarterback will make a difference. It's a brutal conference. But I'll tell you this. Think about some of the top teams. Alabama, Georgia, even though they've got great players, they're both starting new quarterbacks. So that matters too. we're not sure they're going to go 12 or 13-0. So that's a start. Defend the run and have a playmaker quarterback. So if they're the same as they were last year, then I greatly overplayed the quarterback thing, or their defense just fell apart. And I can tell you this, the hot seat will get really, really hot if that's the case. I think that I thought they were overrated going in last year because I think we put too much on those freshman recruits. I think they may be a little underrated or properly rated now, but they can move fast up that board as long as the quarterback plays well and defense is physical. If you're faint of heart in the SEC and need not apply, I think they made the proper changes. Now we got to see if it pays off on Saturday in a very, very difficult conference. The quarterback's going to help, I assure you.
Aside of from the quarterback position, what do you like about A&M's offense?
I think they're always pretty good with team speed, and I do like the way they're going to be coached. I do. I know the X's and O's that some people don't know about Bobby. I do like that because a coach's job is to put your best players in position to succeed, not for your ego, but for theirs. And I'm going to tell you, I like the fact that Jimbo, I don't know if he's going to be fully removed, that he can be a head coach. I think they suffered last year, the recruiting and all the expectations, but I think what happens with all the struggles on offense, you kind of lose sight of the fact that there's some things on defense. There's pretty good players on offense in this conference, so they got to go. But I need him to be physical up front and taught, but he'll be amazed at what a quarterback can do. And chart as they go, guys are going to win jobs. For me, it is the ability for the quarterback to also elevate the team around him. They look like a team that was trying to find who their leader was. I think they found it, and they didn't even have him start a whole season. So, and adding some changes, I think you're going to see more excitement too, and not just excitement with the way they line up, but the execution, deploying players and being multiple and not being just so we're, there's where they're lined up. Bobby Petrino can present some problems, and I think he's got the football IQ quarterback to handle it. The question is, how will the rest of them, address it early and often? Because in the SEC, you don't have much time to take a deep breath.
Sean, let's talk Caleb Williams for a moment. Do you think he could potentially do it, win back-to-back Heismans, and maybe get USC into the playoffs?
Yeah, and David, I'm critical of my team, so I'm not the homer that because I went to SC. Hell, here I'm talking about SC and A&M, two teams that my education's been part of that I love. But I'm also I can see the forest and the trees are through the trees, and Caleb Williams is the best player in college football, and he's proven that, and he's at a different level than most. Now, we haven't seen back-to-back Heisman winners ever, other than Archie Griffin. We haven't seen since the 70s. So tough to do, but he's primed with the same head coach, really good perimeter people and team speed. Yeah, the Heisman, but you know what the truth is? I don't think much of his SC people care about that because if he's healthy, they're going to score. Hell, they can score from the parking lot, and he is a phenomenal player and a great leader. The key is, can they get off the field defensively? They've got to stop him. So, yeah, he can win the Heisman. Yes, he can light the world on fire. And, yes, unless he doesn't show up for the team bus, he's going to be the first or second pick of the draft. He and probably Drake May. But all that's in place. Can Alex Grinch get the defense going? Because if he can, they will be in the Final Four. If that defense is a top 40 defense in the country and they're healthy offensively, they'll be stared at the door of being in the Final Four. But they got to play defense because that pressure and burden to carry around, if you're Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley, is tough to do. But they are primed. They say they got better defensively. They got a tackle. I think they will. But you're watching something special. The kid at quarterback is we talked about Connor Wegman. We're in a whole different. This is different. This is high rent district when it comes to quarterbacks, and not because he's SC, just because I've watched him develop. And Lincoln's going to put him in position. Their whole thing is defense. They will score on anybody. It doesn't matter who. The key is, can they get off the field against anybody on defense?
Sean, you've heard the term about a California stop. Billy Lucci pointed out, I just ran through the stop sign when you gave your great news about getting your master's here from Texas A&M. So, hey, congratulations on all that, man. That is fantastic news. You're part of the Aggie family. You got family here now, too. It's just such a cool thing, so congratulations.
Thank you. I love being part of the Aggie family, and I'll say this. I don't know if it was great to get my master's and get it done, and I promised my mom and dad at my USC graduation I would, and all these years later I got it, so I'm proud of it, very proud, but I don't know if keeping up with 24-year-olds that know how to work all those computers and PowerPoints, I'm like, what the hell am I doing, you idiot? So at the time I scratched my head saying, why are you doing this? but I'm glad I did it not only from a great institution, but in truth, it at my age to go back and compete with 25-year-olds. It was pretty fun, and I learned a lot. Some of the best professors I've had in my life reside in Aggie land, so I'm honored, man. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. We'll talk to you soon, all right?
Appreciate you guys anytime. Thank you, and good luck. Go gig 'em. Let's do this thing.
Appreciate you, Sean. Take care, man. Sean Salisbury there on the hotline.
That was fun.
That was good. He was great.
Yeah.
He was really good. A lot of text messages about him as well. Instead of break, we'll come back with a final short segment. Charge Apparel time now. Aggie owned and operated, purpose-driven brand. They're veteran-owned, operated, and donate 12% of their total sales to organizations that support U.S. veterans and mental health initiatives, guys. It's really what they want to do. They want to have an ode to the 12th man. They stand in support of those servicemen and women by donating 12% of their total sales to organizations that do support U.S. veterans and mental health. And the clothing, phenomenal, no doubt about that. Premier fabric, lightweight, slightly tailored fit, it's the similar supplies that Lululemon uses and other great brands out there. Feature a slightly tailored fit throughout the chest and the arms, designed to make you and feel your best out there. The Charger Barrel is a Texas-based company that operates out of Texas, or out of Austin, I should say. And although they're currently behind enemy lines, one of the owners is from College Station, the other owner, both of them, graduated from Texas A&M in 2014. You want to check them out at thechargeapparel.com, thechargeapparel.com, or on Instagram, The Charge Apparel, or Twitter, The Charge Brand. The Go Sandwich feels like, because it's what would we call it? It's still the Go Hour, but like it just feels weird at 10. I liked it. It was enjoyable. It just doesn't. It's different. But it used to mean
still an hour.
Still an hour, but it was more like Gabe and Olin. Then it became Go because we're going. We're starting the show going.
Yeah.
But you know what? Maybe the show just never ends now. At 10 o'clock, it just goes. Keeps going.
It like that rabbit.
The Energizer Bunny?
Yeah, it just goes and goes. You're wearing pink. That rabbit kind of pink?
Schloss said it was coral. And I'm going to go with Schloss, even though it's very pink.
Yeah. I'm not one of those that knows all those different
colors. It's
shades
just pink
of colors. It's just pink. You know, like, what is it? Mauve or lilac or
burgundy
lavender,
versus maroon?
Yeah,
what's the difference?
Yeah.
I mean, I know the difference when I see it. I can't explain it.
All these different colors of different shades of green. Like, nah, it's green.
It's not. You don't believe in teal?
There's teal, but I don't know what teal is. Is it blue or is it green?
Bluish green.
It's teal.
Teal. That's true. OB, thank you, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Well, by the way, let's say thank you to our guests, and let's do it together. We had Bronny and Schloss in studio for the first hour.
Thanks, Schloss.
Thank you. John Harris was at a
I'm sure he was
parade,
great.
it sounded like. He was great. Josh Sneed, SEC Shorts. I know you like that
I
one.
listened in.
Yeah. We also had 23 and 23, Tyreek Chappelle, and then Sean Salisbury to close out the show. He was great.
Yeah, he was.
That's going to do it. We'll see you all mañana on TexAgs Radio.